Prasadam. This is our second day of remembrances and appreciations of our revered spiritual master, Srimad Govinda Swami Maharaj. So we'll go ahead and start. And today we have a very astonishing lineup of personalities to speak. We have His Holiness Giriraj Maharaj, who I hope will be coming on in a few minutes. And then Brajahari Prabhu, the temple president in Juhu, will also be gracing us today. And my senior godbrother, Pushkaraksha Prabhu, who's the first Western devotee to come to Gour Maharaj, will also be in this session. And we'll also hear something from Vaisheshika Prabhu and from Radhanath Maharaj's disciple, Gauranga. So we'll start with some prayers. Gauragraganya gana gocha golodu hadam Gauranga Guratama Gopyada Kolpa Briksham Gopala Gada Ratidam Yati Singha Gora Govinda Deshi Kavaram Satatam Namami. To that personality who is the Uru, the brilliant Hara, the garland around the necks of Gala of the Gocha of Mahaprabhu's topmost associates, Gauragraganya. That personality who's a Kopa Briksha, a desire tree, who's giving Gura Tama Gopyada, the deepest secrets of Gauranga Mahaprabhu. Gauranga Guratama Gopyada Kopa Briksham, who's Gopala Gada Ratidam, who's giving condensed Gada attraction, Rati, for Gopal, and who's Yati Singha Gora Govinda Deshi Kavaram. He's a lion-like sannyasi, Yati Singha. He always spoke very strongly. And Deshika Vadam is a very great teacher. Satatam Namami. I offer my repeated obeisances to him again and again. So I want to begin this program with a note of gratitude, both especially to our revered spiritual master and to our Param Guru, Srila Prabhupada, by whose mercy came, as well as to all the Vaishnavas who have been taking part, and the Giriraj Maharaj. Nice to see you, Maharaj. Hare Krishna. So we'll go ahead and hear something from Giriraj Maharaj. Giriraj Maharaj is, I don't think he needs any introduction. I would highly recommend his book that he published recently about the history of the Juhu temple, which Srila Prabhupada wanted. Maharaj is a great writer and a very early disciple of Srila Prabhupada, and just such a wonderful, wise, and dear Vaishnava. And we're just so happy, Maharaj, I can't tell you, to see you here today. Thank you. I know, I think for you it's getting a little late at night there in where you're at. I can't hear you, Maharaj. You're muted.
I said it's not that late. It's
okay,
8
good.
p.m. It's 8 p.m.
Okay.
Here. All right, so
you just,
yes.
Just go ahead.
Om Jnana Timirandasya Dhyananjana Salakaya Chaksun Militam Yena Tasmai Sri Gurave Namaha. Sri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swa Padantikam. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prestaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Niti Namane. Namaste Saraswati Deve.
Maharaj, somehow you're muted again. I can't hear you. Oh, that's good.
Chakovatrubhyascha Kripa Sindhu Vyevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaur Bhakta Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hari Rama, Hari Rama, Rama, Hari Hari. Gour Govinda Swami Maharaj was born in a Gaudiya Vaishnava family in Orissa on September 2nd, 1929. His family were followers of Srimad Mahaprabhu and worshippers of Lord Krishna from the time of Shamananda Pandit in the 17th century. And they served their family deity, Gopalju. As a child, he was always very serious. He didn't play with the other children and engaged his free time from school either in serving Gopalju or in performing kirtan with his uncles. So Gour Govinda Maharaj grew up in that atmosphere, reading Srimad Bhagavatam and Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita, chanting the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra, singing the songs of Narottam Das Thakur and Bhakti Vinod Thakur, and worshiping Gopalju. He was educated in Hindi, Bengali, Sanskrit, and English, and in various other subjects. In due course, as was customary, he was married. And to maintain his family, he worked in government service as a school teacher. But within his heart, his desire to serve the Lord fully grew stronger and stronger, and he prayed to his deity to relieve him of family responsibilities, as recorded in his diary. Quote, "O Prabhu Gopal, please make me a yogi sannyasi. I do not need anything, Prabhu. I am not asking you for material opulence, respect, glory, or anything else. You may give those things to my younger brother, Kripa Sindhu. Let him maintain my family. Make me a samsara vairagi yogi, a renunciate of family life. Let me beg that prema dana, that wealth of love of Godhead. Let me distribute prema and ananda. Let me serve you. Please shower your mercy on me, Prabhu. Please bless me with prema bhakti, ecstatic love for you." End quote. In response to his sincere desire and prayers, he was unable to leave his family. He adopted the name Gour Gopal and began to travel like a sannyasi, although officially he was not initiated into the renounced order. He traveled as a mendicant sadhu and at the same time was looking for a spiritual master who could properly enlighten him and engage him in devotional service. Eventually, in September of 1974, he decided to go to Vrindavan, and ultimately he came to the ISKCON property there. He wanted to meet Srila Prabhupada, that great person who had spread Krishna consciousness all over the world and converted persons from outside India into pure Vaishnavas. He did meet his divine grace, and at their first meeting, Srila Prabhupada offered to give him sannyas. At that moment, Gour Gopal realized that Srila Prabhupada was his spiritual master, that Srila Prabhupada knew his heart and could help him to realize his spiritual aspirations. As he commented later, quote, "I could then understand he is a genuine guru because he knows my heart. He is Chaitya Guru. I was in search of such a person under whom I could find shelter. I took shelter of him. My heart was naturally attracted toward him. I had full faith in Krishna and Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and they helped me. Thus, he accepted Srila Prabhupada as his spiritual master, and soon thereafter, Srila Prabhupada initiated him. Srila Prabhupada gave him first and second initiation at one time, and soon thereafter, at the grand opening of the Krishna Balaram temple on Sri Ram Navami, April 20th, 1975, he gave him sannyas. Because Gour Govinda Maharaj was educated, Srila Prabhupada asked him to translate his books into Hindi and later into Oriya. Gour Govinda Maharaj took that service very seriously. He was translating regularly, but for Srila Prabhupada's centennial in 1996, he took a vow not to eat unless he had translated his quota for the day, a certain number of verses, which would take at least an hour. And he was so strict that even when he couldn't translate because of circumstances, he would sometimes travel on long flights overseas. He would still fast until he had done his quota, even if it was late at night. He took that order to translate very seriously. On one occasion in Gita Nagari, his servant locked up his books in his suitcase and lost the key. They left Gita Nagari that day, flew to Delhi on an overnight flight, and then flew from Delhi to Bhubaneswar. Maharaj refused to take prasad during the whole time until they managed to open his bags and he was able to get his books and meet his quota of translating. Srila Prabhupada also asked Gour Govinda Maharaj to establish a temple in Bhubaneswar. A donor had given ISKCON some land that at the time was outside the city in the wilderness. The place then was nothing more than a jungle full of snakes, scorpions, mosquitoes, and other creatures. To this day, there are still wild elephants living in a reserve, only a 20-minute walk from the temple. Gour Govinda Maharaj took up the challenge, the order, the service, and lived in extremely austere conditions. He decided to start staying at the property even before there were any buildings on it. The only shelter he was able to manage at first was to stay with some of the local road workers who were working on National Highway number 5 in a tent. I mean, this is incredible. Road workers in India are not exactly sattvic, and they probably were smoking, chewing pan, and using foul language. A student who sometimes came and assisted Maharaj was shocked when he saw where he was living. Quote, "Maharaj, how can you stay in such a nasty place?" he asked. "No," Maharaj replied, "this is a very nice place. This is what my Guru Maharaj, Srila Prabhupada, has given to me." Srila Prabhupada predicted that one day that area would become the center of the city. When the temple started, there were no buildings as far as the eye could see. Today, the area is densely populated and is the fastest growing area in Bhubaneswar. A major highway runs right past our property, and shops and offices and residences have developed on all sides. It is a major location. In 1977, after the Mahakumbha Mela in Allahabad, Srila Prabhupada himself went to Bhubaneswar. Gour Govinda Maharaj, Pradumya Prabhu, and Harisori Prabhu stayed together in the mud and thatch hut where Gour Govinda Maharaj had been doing his bhajan and translation work. And for 17 days, Srila Prabhupada stayed in an attached hut. When Srila Prabhupada was translating, they could hear him through the connecting wall, dictating his purports. Gour Govinda Maharaj continued to live there after Srila Prabhupada left. And after Gour Govinda Maharaj's departure from this world, his body was placed there in Samadhi. On the auspicious occasion of Sri Nityananda Trayodasi in 1977, Srila Prabhupada laid the cornerstone for the Krishna Balaram temple to be developed there. He also completed an important phase of his own writing, the 9th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, and began on the 10th canto. In time, Gour Govinda Swami Maharaj raised the funds and built a beautiful temple on the land. After Srila Prabhupada left this world, Gour Govinda Maharaj was ready to execute another important instruction that Srila Prabhupada had given him, that he should travel and help Prabhupada's devotees. So he began to travel overseas and preach. Seeing the needs of the society and the devotees, he evolved his mission in accordance with Srila Prabhupada's instructions to him, which was, by his own account, 1, to show that everything is in Srila Prabhupada's books. 2, to show that you can get everything within ISKCON and need not go outside. And 3, to preach to the preachers, to maintain and encourage the devotees so that they don't fall down or go away. As for the books, Gour Govinda Maharaj said that Srila Prabhupada's books are like an ocean filled with gems, and that in order to gather those gems, one must dive very deep. Gour Govinda Maharaj's own books, compiled from his talks by his disciples, especially Madhavananda Das, are mainly classes based on Srila Prabhupada's books. And in them, he reveals just what gems there are in Srila Prabhupada's books, and how one can get from the books the highest realizations of Krishna consciousness, Sambandha, Abhideya, and Prayojana. What our relationship with Krishna is, how to act in that relationship, and how to actually realize the ultimate goal of life, pure love for Krishna, Krishna Prema. He also showed that you can get everything within ISKCON. He himself gave much to the society of devotees in ISKCON, mainly through his Krishna Katha, which was filled with his realization of Krishna consciousness. He was an example of a pure devotee who had ecstatic love for Krishna, a direct perception of Krishna. From his liberated platform of pure devotional service, he could guide and encourage and enlighten devotees and give them hope that if they followed the same process as followers of Srila Prabhupada, they could attain the same result. I have heard advanced Gaudiya Vaishnavas outside of ISKCON speak Krishna Katha, and I can honestly say that the Krishna Katha spoken by Gour Govinda Swami Maharaj appeals to me as much as any of theirs. But hearing from Gour Govinda Maharaj is different because he is a disciple of Srila Prabhupada and a member of ISKCON. So we are getting it in our line in the line of Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur and Srila Prabhupada. So it is more congenial for advancement in Krishna consciousness in ISKCON. Hearing from Gour Govinda Swami Maharaj or reading his books, one could get everything that one could ever want right within ISKCON. And by his association, through his talks or books or even followers, one can feel enlivened in Krishna consciousness. One can be greatly nourished and make tangible progress, but to speak of not falling down or going away. One can get a glimpse of the actual perfection of Krishna consciousness and have hope that we can actually reach the ultimate goal in this lifetime by following the same process of bhakti yoga as given to us in our line, from Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur to Srila Prabhupada, and then to his followers. So Srila Gour Govinda Maharaj has significance not only for those who knew him personally or served him in Orissa, where he had his base given to him by Srila Prabhupada as his Prabhupada Dash, but for all of us, for everyone associated with ISKCON. His instructions and mercy are available to all of us, even now. His strong faith in and intense dedication to Guru are expressed in a talk on Srimad Bhagavatam 8.14.6, which he gave in Bhubaneswar on April 7th, 1992. Quote, "The teachings coming from Mahaprabhu through our parampara are true. They are our sadachar, our regulative principles. They are laws for all humanity coming through parampara. If we disrespect them, not executing them in our lives, if we impose any deliberation on them or twist them, we become offenders. We commit nam aparad by disobeying the orders of the Guru. Then we are far away from his lotus feet." I love Maharaja's Guru Nishta. To become a true follower of Guru, one should never hesitate to carry out his orders. If to obey the Guru it is necessary to become very proud, I should never hesitate to become so. If it means becoming an animal, I should never hesitate to become one. Even if it is necessary to go to hell for Guru, I should never hesitate. I should never hear from anyone but my Guru. We should never listen to those who say something different from the teachings of Mahaprabhu coming through bona fide parampara. If someone says something different, then like Bhimasen, I will crush it with my fist. I will destroy it. I will defeat it. I am that proud. With just one speck of dust from the lotus feet of my Guru, crores and crores of people can be delivered. There is no such a scholar as my Guru. I will never accept anyone else as a scholar. There are no teachings like those that my Guru has imparted to be found in any human being or demigod. No one else can give such teachings. Nothing in this world is as heavy as a tiny speck of dust from his lotus feet. This is the mood of the follower of true parampara. I'm proud to be associated with such a parampara. Now, although we are observing Srila Gour Govinda Swami Maharaj's appearance day, I will touch upon his disappearance pastime. It was on Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur's appearance day in Mayapur on February 9th, 1996. I was obliged to leave Mayapur early that day to fly to America for some urgent business. Still, in the morning, I met him. He had arrived in Mayapur only the night before. And I was fortunate to be able to offer my obeisances to him. I placed my head on his feet, and out of his mercy and kindness, he affectionately rubbed my head and back. And that was the last time I saw him. After offering my obeisances and packing and getting ready to leave, I went to the temple hall for Pushpanjali and Guru Puja, for Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur's Vyasa Puja, took darshan of the deities, blessings from the deities, and intended to depart immediately. But some devotees prevailed upon me to first honor the feast offered to Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, which I did with the other devotees, and I still reached the Calcutta airport with time to spare. But it was not until much later, because where I was in America, I had no opportunity to get news about ISKCON. And I was just starting to use a computer, but not regularly. When I met His Holiness Radhanath Swami in Chicago, I received the news that Srila Gour Govinda Swami Maharaj had left this world. It so happened that in the afternoon of Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur's appearance day, two senior devotees came to meet Gour Govinda Maharaj in his room, and they inquired of him about Krishna. Why Lord Chaitanya made his base in Puri? What was the relationship between Lord Jagannath and Vrindavan? Maharaj began to narrate the pastimes of Krishna and how Krishna, having been in separation from Radharani, assumed the form of Jagannath. It was a very ecstatic description. Because of Gour Govinda Swami's advanced level of Krishna consciousness, he felt transcendental ecstasy remembering the pastimes of Krishna. And in this case, he became overwhelmed. He excused himself, saying he was unable to speak anymore. He lay back on his bed and, gazing at a picture of his worshipable deity Gopalju, while devotees chanted the holy names, in a very deep state of Krishna consciousness, he left this world. His disciples, of course, were greatly aggrieved, as were all the Vaishnavas, feeling intense separation from him. They decided to bring his body to Bhubaneswar to place him in samadhi at the site of his bhajan kutir, near the Radha Gopinath temple that he had established on the ISKCON land in Bhubaneswar. Now, there is a very specific connection in service between Srila Gour Govinda Swami Maharaj and Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur. Of course, there's a connection in terms of the general mission, which is to distribute books, establish temples, and make devotees. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati did all three, and Srila Prabhupada also did all three. And he wanted ISKCON to do all three. In his concluding words to Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita, Prabhupada wrote, "Our society, the International Society for Krishna Consciousness, has been formed to execute the order of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and His Divine Grace Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur." So all the followers of Srila Prabhupada within ISKCON, whatever their particular service may be, are furthering that mission, which ultimately results in the publication and distribution of books, the establishing and maintaining of temples, and the making and maintaining of devotees. But Srila Gour Govinda Maharaj also served Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur in a very special way as well. And that relates to the deity and temple of Alalanath or Alarnath in Brahmagiri outside Jagannath Puri. There's a lot I could say about that, and I would like to, but in my initial response to Madhavananda Prabhu's question about how much time I could use, I said 45 minutes. And I'm already up to a half hour. And we also want to have time for questions and comments. So either I will skip this, which I can do, or we can see if Madhavananda Prabhu is willing to give me an extension. I'm fine either way.
Maharaj, please, we can give you some extension.
Okay. All right, then I will describe this very interesting connection between Srila Gour Govinda Swami Maharaj's service and Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur. When Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was residing in Puri during the last 18 years of his manifest pastimes, he would daily go to the temple of Lord Jagannath for darshan. He would see Jagannath not as we may see him, but as Krishna himself, Sham Sundar, in his beautiful threefold bending form, Shamam Shibanga Lalitam. But every year, 15 days before the Rath Yatra festival, Lord Jagannath is bathed in the Snan Yatra ceremony and thereafter taken into seclusion for 2 weeks for repairs or to recover from having caught a cold. During that period, called Anavasara, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and the other devotees would not be able to see Lord Jagannath. So feeling separation from Jagannath, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu would walk 14 miles to the temple of Alarnath. The deity of Alarnath is a four-handed Vishnu form, installed by Lord Brahma many millennia ago on the top of a hill, Brahmagiri. So Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu would pass the Anavasaras period with Lord Alarnath. In the course of time, the Alarnath temple became dilapidated. And when Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur visited in 1929 and saw the poor condition, he undertook to build a boundary wall and repair the main temple. He was so keen on finishing the project expeditiously that he personally rolled bidis, cigarettes, for the workers so that they wouldn't stop their work. That is how sincere and intent he was in his purpose. During some excavation work in the temple compound, one of the priests discovered an ancient Utsav deity, which it looked exactly like the large deity of Alarnath in the temple. All major temples with large deities also have small Utsav deities that are used for festivals. The large deities the Utsav deities can be moved, conveniently brought forward for Abhishek, taken on processions, placed on swings and in boats, and served in ways that cannot be done with the large deities. So the pujari put the Utsav deity on the altar, but one night the deity came to him in a dream and told him, "I want to be worshipped by my dear devotee, Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati." The next morning, the pujari, in obedience to the order of the deity in his dream, searched for the saintly person named Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati, and when he found him, he presented him the small deity of Alarnath. And Srila Bhaktisiddhanta installed the deity in the Brahma Gaudiya Mutt established by him near the original Alarnath temple. For Srila Prabhupada's centennial, Srila Gour Govinda Swami Maharaj also took up service for Lord Alarnath at Brahmagiri. He began renovations on the ancient temple, including the construction of a new deity kitchen, a hall for kirtan and prasad, and a small temple for Lord Shiva, the protector of the Dham, within the temple compound. And on January 1st, 1996, just weeks before he left this world in Mayapur, Maharaj inaugurated the project. Thus, Srila Gour Govinda Swami Maharaj continued the line of service to Lord Alarnath, begun by Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur. Another service that His Holiness Gour Govinda Swami Maharaj took up was to develop a plantation of Fasi trees to be used to build Lord Jagannath's Rath Yatra chariots. Lord Jagannath's chariots are huge, and their construction requires a huge amount of wood, more than 600 trees per year. According to Shastra and tradition, the wood must come from only certain species of trees. Those trees grow slowly. And as Kali Yuga has progressed, the natural forests of those trees, which belong to Lord Jagannath, have been encroached upon, and the supply of Fasi wood has been depleted to such an extent that it appeared that in a few years there would not be enough to build Lord Jagannath's chariots. So His Holiness Srila Gour Govinda Swami Maharaj took up the cause. In December of 1995, the government of Orissa allocated 150 acres of Lord Jagannath's traditional jungle for this project. And now, with the help of Gour Govinda Maharaj's followers and supporters, 70,000 young Fasi trees are growing in the Orissan jungle under the supervision of Lord Jagannath's devotees. This is the Sri Jagannath Forest Project. Srila Gour Govinda Swami Maharaj is a great personality, a munificent personality. He did great service, not only for Srila Prabhupada and ISKCON and its devotees in a limited sense, but also for the entire Sampradaya and for the larger cause of Krishna consciousness. Devotional service to Lord Krishna, to Lord Jagannath. Through his talks and writings, he explained the esoteric significance of Jagannath Puri, of Alarnath, of Lord Jagannath. That Jagannath Puri is a place of separation. Lord Jagannath feels separation from Srimati Radharani and his other friends in Vrindavan. And Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, in the mood of Radharani after Krishna left Vrindavan for Mathura and Dwarka, also feels separation. Jagannath is feeling separation from Srimati Radharani, and Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, in the mood of Radharani, is feeling separation from Krishna, Lord Jagannath. So Jagannath Puri is Vipralamba Kshetra, a land where ecstatic separation is relished. As Srila Prabhupada taught us, and as Srila Gour Govinda Swami Maharaj has explained, Service and separation is the highest ecstasy of love of God. Once, Maharaj said of his work in Orissa, we are opening a school for crying. Now we too are feeling separation from Srila Gaur Govinda Swami Maharaj. We miss him, his personal darshan, his merciful glance, his affectionate touch. We miss sitting at his lotus feet and hearing Krishna Katha from his lotus mouth. At the same time, we know that he is present. We know that he is pleased when we diligently chant the holy name, earnestly discuss Krishna Katha, and enthusiastically serve Srila Prabhupada and ISKCON, and endeavor to spread Krishna consciousness following in the footsteps of our Guru Parampara, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, Srila Prabhupada, and Srila Prabhupada's exalted followers. So on this occasion, we pray to Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur and His Holiness Srila Gaur Govinda Swami Maharaj that we may serve them eternally as they desire. This is Parampara, serving Srila Prabhupada and his predecessors and followers. We pray for their mercy, that we may relish the internal moods of Krishna consciousness, and at the same time fulfill their compassionate desire to bring others to Krishna consciousness by their divine grace. Devotees cried for Srila Gaur Govinda Swami Maharaj when he left, and we should cry for him now for his mercy and be eager to hear from him as he instructed. Quote, all sadhus speak through their books. Jiva Goswami, Rupa Goswami, Sanatan Goswami, Bhaktivinoda Thakur, Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, and Srila Prabhupada all say that they speak through their books. This is our Vaishnava procedure. But you should see him. You should say, oh, I have read their books. I have their association. Let me repeat that because I think I didn't get the emphasis right. You may say, oh, I have read their books. I have their association. But you cannot understand what they have said merely by reading their books. Once, when Maharaj came to Mauritius, after he gave a class at the ISKCON Vedic farm at Bonakai, I mentioned to him the verses in Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita, Madhya 22, 128 and 129, about the 5 most potent forms of devotional service. Sadhu Sangha Nama Kirtana Bhagavat Shravana, Mathuravasa Shrimurtira Shradaya Sevana. Quote, one should associate with devotees, chant the holy name of the Lord, hear Srimad Bhagavatam, reside at Mathura, and worship the deity with faith and generation. Sakala sadhana shrestha e pancha anga, Krishna prema janmaya e panchera alpasanga. These 5 limbs of devotional service are the best of all. Even a slight performance of these 5 awakens love for Krishna. I told Gaur Govinda Swami Maharaj how much I cherished Mathura Vasa, residing in Mathura or Vrindavan. Maharaj looked me straight in the eyes and said, quote, Kamsa also resided in Mathura, but still he was a demon. End quote. Immediately I realized that yes, a person can reside in Mathura, but he or she must also give up the demonic mentality of wanting to be the supreme, the proprietor, the controller, and the enjoyer. Externally, one may reside in Mathura, but internally, he or she must do the work of purifying the heart. Maharaj spoke these words to me with great love and compassion. I felt that he was seeing straight into my polluted heart and acting to purify it. He instructed me that the goal was not to reside in Mathura, but to actually develop the consciousness of a devotee. And we can see from his example that the direct personal association of a sadhu is required to understand the real import or purport of the books we read of scripture. The sadhus speaking through their books are very, very merciful, Maharaj said, but you should follow the proper path. If you are intelligent, you will understand how they are still here, not only in the form of their books, but also they are here. You should see them. If you can get his mercy, then you can see him. Otherwise, by your own effort and perception, you cannot see him. No, no, no. You always think that you are drashta, the seer, and that the sadhu is drishta, the one to be seen. Everyone is like this. They think they are the seers, but it is just the reverse. You are to be seen, and they are the seer. And when a devotee asked him, how are we seen by the sadhu, by our service? Maharaj replied, yes, the sadhu is the seer. If he showers his mercy upon you, he sees you. If you receive that merciful glance, then you are very fortunate. Again, part of Maharaj's mission was to show that everything is in Srila Prabhupada's books, that they're like an ocean filled with gems, and that to gather those gems, one must dive very deep. We should also dive deep into Maharaja's books and mine the precious gems he has kept for us there. After Maharaja's passing away, I was unable to visit Mayapur for some years. And when I finally returned, I was most eager to visit the newly constructed samadhis of my dear departed god brothers, Tamal Krishna Goswami, Sridhar Swami, Bhakti Tirtha Swami, and Gour Govinda Swami. I offered my obeisances at Srila Gour Govinda Swami's samadhi. I felt that he gave me a direct instruction. Quote, do not judge others. You do not know what devotion they have in their hearts. In other words, I am not the seer of the sadhu. I am meant to be seen by them. So on this occasion, I pray to Srila Gour Govinda Swami Maharaj that by his grace, he always keeps me under his shelter, instructs me and rectifies me without reservation or hesitation, and engages me in service to him, Srila Prabhupada, our parampara, and their mission. Hare Krishna. Jai.
Hare Krishna. Thank you so much, Maharaj. I really appreciate that. I had a couple of questions and things I wanted to ask you, but before that, I'd like to, with your blessings, show a picture here. Let's just see. Here it is. This is in the Mauritius airport in 1995.
Yeah.
With you and Guru Maharaj. And I have another photo also.
I don't want to take too much time, but we had some fantastic talks at the airport in Mauritius.
Uh-huh.
You know, we had some time and we had some wonderful discussions. And, you know, I was asking him about the prediction about the 10,000 years of the Golden Age,
Uh-huh.
Chaitanya, where that's found in Shastra, and it's just so many things. It was a discussion I will always treasure in my heart. So yes, please.
Well, that was my question. One of my questions was what you were discussing in that airport, and I'm surprised you remember that. That's really wonderful.
Yeah, sure.
And the second question, I was wondering if you could share with us, if you recall, what was the first time that you met him?
Oh, it may have been at the GBC meetings in Mayapur. He was a GBC member, and I was, which reminds me of a very revealing discussion we had in the GBC body.
Uh-huh.
There was a topic of how of the qualifications of a guru,
Uh-huh.
and they had a I guess a board or a flip chart, something they were writing down. What are the functions of a guru? And Govinda Maharaj said to give Krishna. They didn't want to write it down. Maybe they thought it was too deep or too big or too esoteric. So they didn't write it down. And Govinda said, write it down. I tell you, write it down. And they still wouldn't write it down. And again, he said, you write it down. It is the function of the guru to give Krishna. And eventually they did write it down. I don't know if it passed in the resolution, but they did write it down.
I hope that's okay with Krishna. I was thinking, Maharaj, you were speaking about the story about how Guru Maharaj was staying in that road worker's hut, and actually it was Satyananda Prabhu, who later became his disciple, a god brother, who was horrified. He said, Maharaj, how can you, a sannyasi, how can you stay in this place? You're eating non-vegetarian things and drinking alcohol and all this terrible. And Guru Maharaj, as you pointed out, he said, no, this is very nice. My Guru Maharaj has given me this. And it reminded me of the Western devotees staying in Juhu. and as such, mosquitoes and the disease, everybody becoming sick and people wanting to come and kill you, and so many things. And I'm just very much appreciating, through both him and through your service in Juhu and other devotees, I see Srila Prabhupada, because Prabhupada inspired them so much. It's not, you can't do that. You can't stay in a road worker's tent unless you have some very intense love for someone.
Yeah.
Somebody's not muted here. Please, everybody mute yourself except for Maharaj. I'm trying to find it. We have some other administrator here. Somebody can...
It could be, okay, I spotted him, and on his own, he muted himself.
Okay.
Simultaneously.
This is the age of Zoom. I was also appreciating your comments about how austere it was to stay in Bhubaneswar. And devotees just really don't know, especially, who is it, Pradyumna's wife, what's her name, Maharaj? Do you remember? Your god's sister. Arundhati, yeah. She came to Bhubaneswar, I don't know, maybe 10 years ago or something. And I was very fortunate to get to receive her and help take care of her. And she told me it was the first time that she had been in Bhubaneswar since 1977. When she came there with Srila Prabhupada, she was traveling with Pradyumna, and she was transcribing. That was her service, Prabhupada's books. Prabhupada started the 10th canto of the Bhagavatam when he was in Bhubaneswar.
Yes.
And so I asked her, I said, so is things a little different? And she was just like, it's nothing the same. There's all these big trees, and it was just like a jungle forest, and now everything's cement, and it's gotten more built up since then. But as you pointed out too, Srila Prabhupada commented that this place will one day be the center of Bhubaneswar, and today it's the fastest growing place there. But it was very, very austere in the early days. And one story we heard from some local devotees there that Gour Maharaj, when he came, he was first staying in that hut, in that mud, the tent with the road workers, and then later
पीछे मत पड़ मैंने इतनी मन से बनाया
he was staying.
अगर छोटा सा कोई टिफिन है तो उसमें ग्रानोला बार डाल के दे दो
Surat Preeti
अच्छा नहीं
Chaudhary.
लगता कॉलेज में
Yes. Okay.
I'm trying to mute her now. Okay, be careful. You don't know. Be careful. Your mic's on or not. You know, somebody's hearing you chanting japa or talking or whatever. So at that time, there was a small village in the area. I was looking at a photo. Maybe I have this even of. Well, here's one old photo we have. Let me just work on this for a second. This is with. Bhagavat Prabhu at the time, your godbrother is now Bhagavat Maharaj.
Yeah.
And this was like in 1970, I don't know, 75, 76, something like that. And this is what things were like there at the time. This was the most built up place around the temple. It was all just a jungle. And some local people would come, Gour Maharaj, although he was speaking Hari Katha every day. And on one occasion I heard he would speak for a few hours. And one occasion after he spoke for a few hours in the evening, when he got up to go away, a cobra fell off of his lap. It had crawled up onto his lap while he was.
Oh my God.
That's
a cobra. Hearing Hari Katha from Maharaj's lotus mouth. Scary though.
So if anybody else has any questions for Giriraj Maharaj, let's see. Radhabhava Gaura is commenting, please accept my most respectful obeisances at your lotus feet, Maharaj, and thank you so much for this great nectar, and all glories to His Holiness Gaur Govinda Maharaj. And my godbrother Anupam Prabhu is commenting that we should have a book with airport talks. There was quite a few talks that Gour Maharaj gave in the airport. One thing that I really appreciate about Gour Maharaj personally is that I see, as you know, Maharaj, in the history of ISKCON, after Srila Prabhupada left, there were many different gurus, and some of them had troubles, and a lot of devotees had lost faith, and some of them went away, and some of them were just very, very discouraged. And somehow Gour Maharaj really gave inspiration to those devotees. And I feel like that, with myself being one of those, it was a major contribution to Srila Prabhupada's mission. I also would like to invite we have some senior devotees, Krishna Leela's here in North Carolina, and my god sister Anuradha, and Navaru Chandra Prabhu's here, and who else? Pushkaraksha, I think, is here somewhere. He was. So my very senior god brother in France, and different devotees. If anybody has any reflections or comments.
I wanted to say one more thing, if I might.
Yes, Maharaj.
I didn't remember it completely clearly. So I'm going to read that short section from this book, Many Moons, Reflections on Departed Vaishnavas. There's a few items about Gaur Govinda Swami Maharaj. But oh yeah, this is very interesting. At the airport before he left, we spoke for an hour and a half, very intimately. He mentioned the predicted 10,000-year golden age within Kali Yuga, giving some reference for it, and expressing his hope that ISKCON would usher it in. And he told me about himself also. He told me about his first meeting with Srila Prabhupada, how Srila Prabhupada had engaged him, and how later he had brought Srila Prabhupada to Orissa. He told me how he had found guidance after Srila Prabhupada left, how he had developed the notebooks he kept with various verses, and how he would quote from the notebooks when he gave class. I remember his eyes. They always seemed moist with tears of love, tears of joy. And his voice was always full of affection and enthusiasm and the ecstasy of realization. In my mind's eye, even now, I can see his eyes and his smile, his head slightly nodding, his eyes looking into mine, blinking, and his face smiling. The other opportunity, this is what I wanted to bring up. The other opportunities we had to meet and discuss came mainly in Juhu. Maharaj would often leave India from Bombay, and when he would return from his tours abroad, he would also come through Bombay and stay in the Juhu guest house. There too, we had many wonderful discussions. One evening, I had a preaching program. But before leaving the temple, I wanted to visit his room and just offer my respects. When I did, he suddenly began to describe the most wonderful pastime of Radha and Krishna and how they were assisted by Vrinda Devi. Once, when Krishna failed to meet Radharani at the appointed time and place, she sent her girlfriends, Sakis, to investigate. And when they reported that they had found him at the secret grove of her rival, Chandravali, Radha manifested the ecstasy of transcendental loving jealous anger, man, and thereafter she refused to meet him. I'm sure Madhavananda Prabhu and maybe others have heard this story directly from the lotus mouth of Srila Govinda Swami Maharaj. Distraught, Krishna tried in so many ways to break her man, but nothing he said or did would pacify her. Finally, Vrinda Devi came to him and advised him to disguise himself as a sannyasi and beg some charity from her. When he did, Sri Radha could not refuse, and she gave him what he asked, prema. And thus the couple was happily reunited. I had heard and read many pastimes, but I had never heard this particular one. And he was narrating it in such an animated way. I was just enchanted and did not want to leave. But time was passing and it was getting later and later for the program. Still, I could not tear myself away. Finally, he concluded, and I told him that I had to go for a preaching program. And so I left feeling very enlivened by the Krishna Katha he had so kindly narrated. So, yeah, that was. So, yes, questions, reflections, comments.
There's someone here named Radhika, something I think you know her. She says, Hare Krishna, dear Guru Maharaj, please accept my humble obeisances. Thank you for sharing the wonderful memories. Your exchanges with your God brothers, God sisters, and other devotees is always inspiring. Thank you for putting light on the service and dedication of Srila Gour Govinda Swami. And thank you for sharing that story that Guru Maharaj spoke to you. Naranja Maharaj has a similar experience too. They met in in Connecticut. I can't remember the name of the temple. Anyway, in a hotel room there. And Guru Maharaj privately had told him this story. And it really very much inspired Niranjan Maharaj. And I could see that from the Guru Maharaj wanted to have very intimate exchanges with his God brothers. And as you know, Maharaj, you're very famous for this, that the way to keep everything alive, keep Prabhupada's mission alive, is by sharing the kind of Krishna Katha between devotees, and he was very much eager for that. And I appreciate that you were such a gentle and loving receptacle that that you received some of that.
You know, today and maybe yesterday, devotees have been posting things about
Yes,
Srila Govinda Swami Maharaj because of his appearance day. And I read something that was so nice. It's so beautiful. I would like to share it with you now.
please.
Yes, this is from a lecture that Gaur Govinda Maharaj gave on the occasion of Srila Prabhupada's disappearance festival in Bhubaneswar on October 27, 1995. Quote, as disciples and grand disciples of Srila Prabhupada, we have a duty to spread his message. The centennial has arrived. The time has come. And now we're on the 125th anniversary of Srila Prabhupada's appearance. So the appropriateness of the occasion holds now. So the centennial has arrived. The time has come. We have a golden opportunity to spread his message more and more, to make him known more and more throughout the world. Mahaprabhu asked Rai Ramananda, who is the most famous person? Rai Ramananda answered, Krishna Bhakta Balya Yanhara Haya Kyati. That person who is a devotee of Krishna has earned eternal, immortal fame. He lives forever. The day has come just to remind you to take up the vow to dedicate your life to his mission. Make him pleased. Receive his mercy. Your life will be successful.
Wow.
Jai Srila Prabhupada, Jai Srila Govinda Swami Maharaj.
That's wonderful. I have another photo, Maharaj. I think this is in color, so, but I don't have a color one. This is also the same time in the Mauritius airport.
Yeah.
In 1994.
Yeah.
If there's no other comments or reflections, I'd like to, with the blessings of the devotees, play a short video excerpt from Gour Maharaj, where he speaks about, it's actually a talk where he's speaking about how Prabhupada came to Orissa, but the first 3-4 minutes of it, he speaks about how Guru is always present. Let's see if I can do this. I'm having a little technical problem. Give me one moment here. And then also after this, we have a video from Vaisheshika Prabhu speaking something too. So I'm going to go ahead and play a few minutes of this video. Getting more expert with these things. This is a recording. There was no video for it, but the devotees just transcribed with some pictures.
Yes, the Vaishnava, there's no death. Vaishnava is no death. He's always there. When he is physically present, physically present. And at that time, the father of Deity also served the body, known as Govinda. But when he goes to the spiritual world, enters into Nitya Leela, still he is here. Still it's in his mind. Prabhupada Maharaj, my dear spiritual master, has given us so many books So many lecture tapes, so many. Every day. Thank ready, glorified. There's no Bani say. What Deva Bani say? You understand? There's no separation of Gurudev from the disciple. These are not relationships. As long as it's a mass between physical presence, disciples' duty is to serve, to follow, to obey, to order, instruction, and give all sorts of comforts to his body, non-bhoksheva. But when he leaves this world, disappears, but he still remains here in his body. At that time, the disciples and the followers serve. Remember his instructions, to read his books, remember his speeches, his instructions, and act accordingly. That by the service, that is Bhansha. Eternally goes up. So there is no separation of Gurudev from disciple. Disciple should think like, should not think like that. You understand? It is very, very painful. If someone thinks, and disciple thinks, my Gurudev has gone away from me, that's it. Better to die. More than that. You understand? Therefore, we, the disciples of Srila Prabhupada, never think so. When we do this joy, when we give, we never say, and we shouldn't say, Nitya Ratam. No. But all is already done. That's very important. Idea. If someone says Nitya Ratam, no. Say Nitya Ratam is for what it is done for, but it is not for others, not for me. I want it. Yes. Understand? Not separation at all. That's the most important thing. Understand? All right. Now it's already.
It's a very wonderful talk and goes on so many different points, but I thought that was very nice meditation for today for devotees and nice meditation on Srila Prabhupada. There was a number of pictures they had used in that video of Gour Maharaj attending a walk of Srila Prabhupada. There's a whole series of those, actually over a few days. This is one of them. And I don't know if you can see my cursor here. I think this is Pradyumna here, Maharaj. Can you see my cursor?
Sure.
And this is Jai Pataka Maharaj from behind, and Bhavananda Prabhu from behind, and Brahmananda Prabhu. And this is Nitai, I think, right?
Yes.
And who's this Prabhupada's servant here? Shrutakirti, isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. And this is Paramahansa Swami behind Prabhupada.
Yes.
And this devotee on the very left, I don't recognize. It looks hard to tell.
Yeah. I can't say from that.
And you can just see a little to our right of Srila Prabhupada, Gour Maharaj is there. And I found it very fascinating to me because by that time, ISKCON was a big organization, and you yourself joined when things are very small and sweet. I had some talks with Jamuna, your god sister, about the differences that happened over the years. And some things changed. And for our Guru Maharaj to come, at that time, ISKCON was really a group of Western devotees, and he was something very extraordinary. There was no Indian body devotees hardly. And
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna. I'm sorry, my connection's having troubles. I think this is Rita Prabhu on the left here, and you can see our Guru Maharaj again just behind Srila Prabhupada. But looking at these pictures, it really strikes me that Guru Maharaj, he was a staunch disciple of Srila Prabhupada and a cooperative team member in ISKCON, but in some ways too, he was a bit of an anomaly and he didn't really fit in so well. And I see that something in these pictures too. He was there in the background of things and he didn't quite always fit in so much. It just kind of struck me, I don't know. Okay, so anybody else have any reflections or comments, questions, anything that you'd like to offer to Giriraj Maharaj? We're so fortunate he's here. Kamala Sundari's comments, that was so enlivening, thank you. Okay, if that's okay then Maharaj, if it's all right with you, then I'd like to go ahead and play this short video. Let me see, it's about 10 minutes that Vaisheshika Prabhu sent.
Yeah, I'm interested in seeing that.
Okay, and anybody here who's not muted, please mute yourself or the Zoom police will take you away. So let's see here. Vancha kalpatarubhyascha kripasindobhya evacha patitanam pavanigo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. I offer my respectful obeisances to all the devotees who have gathered for this most auspicious occasion to glorify Srila Gour Govinda Maharaj. I offer my respectful obeisances to Srila Gour Govinda Maharaj, to Srila Prabhupada, and all the great acharyas descending in the line of disciplic succession from Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. What would we know? What would I know about spiritual life if it was not for the pure devotees? And Srila Prabhupada was the best of all devotees, therefore he's called Prabhupada. But what is a Prabhupada without Prabhus to be gathered at his lotus feet? And the proof of a pure devotee is demonstrated to the world. It comes to be known by that devotee's ability to change the hearts of others, and also to attract the best of Vaishnavas. The Vaishnavas who are in this world, especially to glorify Krishna and to spread Krishna consciousness, come in often innocuous ways, and then they manifest their potencies later in life. Of course, we see from the life of Srila Gour Govinda Maharaj that he grew up in an impeccable environment of Vaishnavas, and he manifested very early in his life his attachment to the Shastra, his ability to speak about Krishna consciousness and absorb all the scriptures. And then later in life, renouncing family life and coming to meet Srila Prabhupada, he was one of the rare souls that Krishna talks about in the Bhagavad Gita. Manushyanam sahasreshu kaschidhyasati siddhai yatatam api siddhanam kaschim mam veti tatpataha. There's so many people milling around the world, and out of them, some are interested in spiritual life. And of those who are very serious about spiritual life, there are very few that know me in truth. They have the tattva. Well, Srila Gour Govinda Maharaj was one of those extremely rare, special souls. Out of millions and millions of sages, Muktanam api siddhanam Narayana Parayana. There's very few Narayana Parayanas, but he was one of them. And when Srila Prabhupada saw him, he immediately recognized, takes one to know one. And he gave him the empowerment of sannyas and the empowerment of his order to go out and spread Krishna consciousness, to start a temple in Bhuvaneshwar. And I was
fortunate to meet Maharaj in Bhubaneswar before the temple was built. It was when there were a couple of grass huts and just some foundations dug. In other words, it was just trenches. There was nothing yet constructed, and he was staying on the property in a grass hut, and he had a brahmachari servant who was cooking on a open fire. And I got to stay there and listen to his classes each morning. And I just remember marveling at his intense devotional service, his regulation, and his prolific knowledge of scripture. And just looking at his beautiful form, that I could see it. It was not material. So that was my first experience, and I feel very fortunate to have had that. And later I came to know more about his life. I didn't know at that time. I didn't know how he had been born in a Vaishnava family. In fact, there was a godbrother, Dhruva Maharaj Prabhu, who had told me more about Srila Gour Govinda Maharaj, and also given me some of his books to read. And when I started reading his books and hearing about how he had grown up and the way he had cruised through Grahastha life and then gone and taken sannyas, joined Srila Prabhupada, I could see the trajectory of one of the pure devotees coming into the world to assist Srila Prabhupada and to help spread Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's movement. But his contribution is so substantial because he had the force of purity, the momentum from his life with Vaishnavas growing up. And he also gave a intimate look into the parts of philosophy of the Gaudiya Vaishnavism that often people don't get an opportunity to hear. He put it in so clearly, and I could see that around him, those who spent time with him, as I noticed when I would visit places where Maharaj was preaching, there were groups of devotees who were gravitating to hear him. And then I started to notice the effect that he was having on them, that they were becoming very knowledgeable and strict followers I've, over the years, had a very close relationship with Madhavananda Prabhu, and I can see in him that stamp of Srila Gour Govinda Maharaj. I always appreciate how it is said that we don't know the power of Vaishnava until we see how he affects others. You don't know a touchstone until you go around touching and various objects and say, oh, yeah, that's a touchstone. And I see the effect that it's had, that he's had on many of his disciples who became so learned so quickly. It's an empowerment. It came from association with somebody who's on a very high level. So to be on the same planet, that would be fortunate, but to have been in the same family line, to be a godbrother, and then to have actually had time to sit and listen to him, to sleep in the hut next to him and so forth. I think that this is a great wealth that I've attained by his mercy. And so I'm so grateful to him. I thank Madhavananda Prabhu and other followers of Srila Gour Govinda Maharaj who have carried on his legacy of being absorbed in Shastra and bringing out the details of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's teachings, preserving the Vedic Shastra. And also, I always appreciate how Srila Gour Govinda Maharaj insisted on the culture of Shastric referencing, that he would insist that any of his followers, if they were a disciple, they must back up what they say with Shastra. And he carried that culture forward, that strict culture of the austerity of speech in spiritual circles that Prabhupada talks about in the 17th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita. You must back up what you say with Shastra, otherwise don't bother. What an environment. So he's lifted the whole world. He's left the contribution of his teachings. His vibration is among us through his books, his teachings. It still is resonating everywhere and amongst his followers. My obeisances to all of his followers who have picked up the mood of pure devotion from his lotus mouth and are carrying it forward. And I feel so grateful to be included whenever possible, whenever I'm nearby, or nowadays through the medium of Zoom, to be a participant in glorifying his Srimad Gour Govinda Maharaj on his Divine Appearance Day, or his Tirobhava, which oftentimes takes place in Mayapur when we're there. So thank you to all of you for letting me come on here and say a few words for my own purification. It's my greatest honor. And I pray that I may always remember and serve my exalted God brother, Srila Gour Govinda Maharaj, and follow in his footsteps. Calling from the spiritual world. Thank you very much. Gaur Premanande, Hari Hari.
Let's see here. How can I turn off the... Okay, is it still showing a screen with the player there? I'm a little confused. My thanks to Vaisheshika Prabhu. I wish he could be here live right now, but he's such a very, very dear devotee. And two little reflections that I have about his comments, and maybe some other devotees, Maharaj, maybe you have some reflections or others, is as he commented, it takes one to know one. He, because Vaisheshika appreciates Shastra so much, he's like a walking Bhagavatam or something, and always quotes Shastra and pronounces things very nicely. He appreciates that. And our Guru Maharaj appreciated that so much. I remember one lecture he gave in Bhubaneswar, and he said, if you can't quote Shastra, don't tell them you're my disciple. And I'm also appreciating Giriraj Maharaj, your presence, and Vaisheshika Prabhu, and Naranjan Maharaj, who unfortunately couldn't be here this year, and others. It reminds me of a verse I read some years ago in Krishna Lila Stava of Sanatana Goswami, where he says that Rupa Namashrita Vishta, that when someone meditates on the Rup, the form, and the name, the Nam of Krishna, the Avishta, they take shelter of that thing, Ashrita, then Avishta, Krishna enters into them. And the same thing we can see with Guru. And for those devotees who were always meditating on Srila Prabhupada's order, then Prabhupada's entered into them. And for myself, one of the ways that I came to my Guru Maharaj, I wanted to meet Srila Prabhupada. I had been initiated before, my Guru went away, and I was crying, and I started going to Prabhupada's room, and I had this realization. I was praying to Prabhupada that I need a guru, but I need someone like you. And then when I met Guru Maharaj, I had this strong feeling that Prabhupada sent him. And I always want to encourage devotees that we should always look for Srila Prabhupada. And Prabhupada is not only going to appear in his deities, he's not only going to appear in his books and his videos and recordings, but he also appears in his disciples. And that's our tradition. And we'll meet him in that way. And I feel like I've met my Guru Maharaj in that way. And I feel an expansion of Prabhupada in that form through you, Maharaj, and through Vaisheshika Prabhu, and through Naranjan Maharaj and others, that Rupa Namashrita Vishta, Prabhupada's in you. And your sharing like this is so very, very important to me. And I appreciate it. I know you're being pulled on by thousands of devotees all over the world. And for you to give your time, I guess, and for Vaisheshika to give your time, it means so very, very much to us. Thank you. Anyways, my little reflections on Vaisheshika's words. Maharaja, if you have anything else or anybody else here, we can.
I do. Reflecting on, Vaisheshika Prabhu brought it up. I also brought it up about Gour Govinda Maharaj coming from a Vaishnava family. And that reminded me of a purport in Srimad Bhagavatam. It's 2.3.15. The verse reads, Maharaj Parikshit, the grandson of the Pandavas, was from his very childhood a great devotee of the Lord. Even while playing with dolls, he used to worship Lord Krishna by imitating the worship of the family deity. Then purport. I'll just read an excerpt from the purport. From the very beginning of his childhood, he had this is referring to Maharaj Parikshit. From the very beginning of his childhood, he had the chance to know intimately the devotional service of Lord Krishna in his own family. The Pandavas, all being devotees of the Lord, certainly venerated family deities in the royal palace for worship. Children who appear in such families, fortunately, generally imitate the worship of the deities, even in the way of childhood play. By the grace of Lord Sri Krishna, this is Srila Prabhupada speaking about himself, we had the chance of being born in a Vaishnava family. And in our childhood, we imitated the worship of Lord Krishna by imitating our father. Our father encouraged us in all respects to observe all functions such as the Rath Yatra and Dol Yatra ceremonies. And he used to spend money liberally for distributing prasadam to us children and our friends. Our spiritual master, who also took his birth in a Vaishnava family, got all inspiration from his great Vaishnava father, Thakur Bhakti Vinod. That is the way of all lucky Vaishnava families. The life history of many such devotees is almost the same because there is always symmetry between the early lives of all great devotees of the Lord. So reading this, thinking of Gour Govinda Maharaj, I thought of this purport, and then reading this purport, I thought of Gour Govinda Maharaj even more. So I just wanted to share that.
Thank you so much, Maharaj. I really appreciate it. Let's see. Today I think is a day for Juhu. Last night we had Devakinanda and Prabhu here also, and today we have you. And we also have a really special guest I want to welcome. I hope he can turn on this video. And that's His Grace Brajahari Prabhu. And for those of you who don't know, Brajahari Prabhu is an amazing person. You excuse me for using a mundane analogy, but it reminds me of a movie around the time I joined called Cool Hand Luke. And it was a story about one person who was very, very level-headed and always very peaceful and tolerant in all situations. And that reminds me of Brajahari Prabhu, who has been managing the Juhu temple for decades now, and is such a cool hand there in spite of so many difficulties and things. And as you were mentioning, Giriraj Maharaj, our Guru Maharaj used to go through Juhu every time when he would go to America and on his way back. And Brajahari Prabhu had some association with him. And more than that, too, I think they must have had some intimacy because they both speak the same Odia language. Brajahari Prabhu is also from Orissa. So Brajahari Prabhu, thank you so much for coming today. I know you're very, very busy. It means a lot to us. So if you want to say something, we'd be delighted.
Namam Vishnupadaya Krishna Prishta Bhutale Srimad Gour Govinda Swami iti namine. Namam Vishnupadaya Krishna Prishta Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami iti namine. Namaste Saraswati Devi Gaurvani Pracharine Nirvishesha Sunyavadi Paschata Deshatarine. Jai Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhara Sivasadi Gaur Bhaktivinoda. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Vancha kalpatarvesya kripa sindhu bhavacha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo. First time I met Gour Govinda Maharaj in Bhubaneswar, that is in 1984. Actually, I left home and was traveling all over India. Finally, I came to Jagannath Puri. And Jagannath Puri, I stayed there 7 days. Every day, from morning till night, I was in the temple. And I had no money. I left home. I used to sleep in the Rath. That time, Rath Yatra it was over. I used to sleep on the Rath cart. So one day, I finally decided that let me go back home. So I came to Bhubaneswar railway station. I was feeling very thirsty. I just went to drink water. So one Prabhupada disciple, the Adhivaksha Prabhu, just appeared that time. He told me that Prabhu, why don't you just come to our Bhubaneswar temple? So he was going to Jagannath Puri. He told me, I said, where is the temple? So he gave me the direction. I just went there. And I met Maharaj sitting in his cottage, that small house. So Maharaj told, that time only Jayapata Maharaj disciples are living, and other devotees, those are there in congregation. Many Gour Govinda Maharaj followers, they are coming to the temple, but they are staying outside. So then Maharaj told me to stay in the ground floor, one room. So I stayed there. That time construction was going on. So, and next day, Jayapataga Maharaj came, and our God brothers, they introduced to him, and Maharaj said that you go to Hyderabad. So that time, Gour Govinda Maharaj was not Guru. I think he became Guru in 1985. So I came to Hyderabad. Then I came to Bombay for training. So while I was in Bombay, I heard many things about Gour Govinda Maharaj, how he left home, how he joined in ISKCON, and how Prabhupada gave him sannyas and so much instruction, how he asked him to translate his books into Odia language. So then I heard that Maharaj was doing preaching and going in a bicycle with Sachinandan Prabhu for preaching. There is no facility, and it was kind of jungle, only snakes and scorpion are there. So one day, Srila Prabhupada in 1977, he came to Bhubaneswar, I think in January, and he went from Juhu to Bhubaneswar. So Prabhupada asked him, why you are not translating books? So Maharaj said, I have to manage, I have to do everything, I am not getting time. So Prabhupada said, no, this is not a big thing. You just put somebody else. He said, there is nobody to assist me. So one foreign devotee was there that time. I don't know his name. But he, Prabhupada said, call this devotee. So he came, and Prabhupada told him that why don't you help Govinda Maharaj and assist him, and he manage, he will translate books. Then the devotee said, no, I have a ticket to go to New York tonight. But his Prabhupada said, no, you be here. He said, no, I am not able to chant my round here properly. He said, no, there is no need to chant. You should just do this management and help Govinda Maharaj. Then he said, no, I'll do in, I have a service they have kept for me in New York. Then Prabhupada said, no, you don't have to go. I will tell them. Then he said, I don't like the GBC here. He said, I will replace the GBC, but you must hear. So he had no other alternative. Then finally he said that I will. Then he was bound and he stayed in Bhubaneswar temple. And then after that, Govinda Maharaj got a lot of time to translate books. So in 19, this is happened in, sorry. So Maharaj was translating his books in Odia language. And then Maharaj, after that, in about 86 or 87, I think, he started coming to Juhu when he started going to West for preaching. Europe, America, Australia, and South Africa, Africa. So he was going through Bombay. So that time I got opportunity. We actually, many devotees here, because Maharaj is such a great preacher and a great sadhu. So we always hankering to hear his lecture and see him. And since he was from Orissa, same culture, and I have so much reverence for him and devotion for him. So Maharaj started coming here. So whenever Maharaj comes here, we used to have very nice feast for him, like Odia style prasadam, and we offer him. And many senior devotees, even Prabhupada's disciples, they were there that time. So we are waiting when Maharaj take prasadam, and after his favorite prasadam is rice, dalma, and chena, which is called cheese. And we cook, and Maharaj take, and everybody get his remnants. So one time Maharaj gave class, because next day he was leaving for to Bhubaneswar, so he was not able to give class, Srimad Bhagavatam class. His class was arranged Bhagavad Gita class in the evening. So while Maharaj told that he agreed to give class, and that day we had some program in the South Bombay. So Devakinandan Prabhu told me that he must come. But Maharaj told me that he be there in the class. So while I couldn't decide, because Devakinandan Prabhu is very forceful, and finally I just left with him to that program. So next day when I met Maharaj, I was feeling very remorse. I was feeling very bad that Maharaj came and I am not able to hear his lecture. So I was just begging forgiveness to him. So he didn't, he said, okay. Then one time he was giving Bhagavatam class. So Amyavilas Maharaj and Narad Rishi Prabhu, they were sitting in the front. And Maharaj is very heavy, and always he's very forceful also in the class, and he's roar like a lion, and give Krishna consciousness philosophy, and sings very nice Odia style kirtan. And Amya Vilas Maharaj, he was telling, you understand what I'm talking? You understand? 10 times he asked. And also Narad Rishi. So they are very much scared, but it is style of Maharaj to convince people, and he just make other also convince about his speaking and his philosophy, what he taught. And one time Maharaj was Maharaj gave class and then he went to his room. So I followed with him. He was staying in room number 507. He asked, he called me. I was standing outside, he called me. He said, he showed me on letter. That letter was written by Tamal Krishna Maharaj to Govinda Maharaj. So he showed me, it is I think it is a handwritten letter. So in that letter, he said, you read it. So I read. So it was written. So it was written, my dear God brother, Gour Govinda Swami. Your last visit to America, you came to Dallas Temple. In Dallas Temple, you gave many classes. After, when you left Dallas Temple, so many of my disciples, they just went with you, and wherever you tour in America, they just they went with you and hearing your lecture and your association. And I was very pleased, but I was not able, I didn't know that you are coming. Otherwise, I would have stayed there. But it is a great, it is very good that you are coming to. And he said, another thing he said, actually, you have been in Bhubaneswar temple, you took very great austerity and did big tapasya, and that is the result we are getting now. And whatever instruction of Srila Prabhupada and whatever you studied, everything you are just giving to everybody now throughout the world. Then he said, then he wrote that in your next visit, when you come to America, please let me know so that I will also stay and I will travel with you. So he showed me the letter. So nice. Actually, I'm feeling very happy because Tamal Krishna Maharaj is also very, very, dear to Srila Prabhupada, and his achievement, we cannot even describe so much he has done for Srila Prabhupada. And when I saw the letter from Tamal Krishna Maharaj, and my respect to Tamal Krishna Maharaj as well as Gour Govinda Maharaj has increased like anything. So that is one of the, when he was there, that's what, and he one day, Giriraj Maharaj is here, I just want to tell. So Giriraj Maharaj, I think he just came from South Africa, and Maharaj also came in the same flight. And Maharaj, we took him, I went to pick up. Generally, when Giriraj Maharaj also come, I also go. But that time, because Maharaj came fast, Gour Govinda Maharaj came in the wheelchair. So we brought him and brought to the temple. So next day, Maharaj was living somewhere. Sorry, it is not from, actually, this is another incident. I think he came from Bhubaneswar to go abroad. So Maharaj, Giriraj Maharaj was there that time in the temple. So Maharaj, after Maharaj gave class, means Gour Govinda Maharaj gave class. So Giriraj Maharaj called me, he said, can I please tell Gour Govinda Maharaj to, I want to meet him. So I went and asked Maharaj. Maharaj said, unless I translate my book, I will not meet anybody. So then I called Maharaj. Maharaj said, okay, after translation, he would speak. Then I told him, he said, no, I will take Prasadam. So Maharaj told that while taking Prasadam also I will meet. He said, no, while taking Prasadam, I don't talk. So like that, somehow or other, then he said he took rest and he left. But I know Maharaj couldn't meet. But the thing is, what their god brothers and whatever relation they have, it is very, very unique. And many moons book, what Giriraj Swami wrote about Maharaj, Govinda Maharaj, so wonderful, so nice. So that is, we should learn from their love and affection between the god brothers. So then in 1996, he also came from abroad, and that is Srila Prabhupada centennial year. And Maharaj came to Bombay and he stayed. One day next morning, he couldn't give class, he went to airport. Maharaj used to go to airport, 2 hours before. He used to sit there 2 hours, but he'll never go last moment. And so we went to see him up. And Maharaj told that you all Odia devotees, please come and help me in Bhubaneswar temple and preach there. But then that same year, Maharaj in Prabhupada Centennial, the Bhubaneswar temple organized a very, very big program where many dignitaries, Gajpati Maharaj, Puri, he also attended. Maharaj, Govinda Maharaj, he spoke many days there, and he was speaking in Odia language, and thousands of people are attending, because Maharaj became so famous and so many Western disciples are there, and Maharaj was speaking so much shouting, roaring, and definitely many people after that became devotee or follow Krishna consciousness. Just right after that, Maharaj went to Mayapur to attend the GBC meeting. As all of you know, he was while he was talking about the pastime of Jagannath and Lord Krishna's separation with Radharani, he was so much intense, and while he was describing, he couldn't speak, and he asked devotees to just do kirtan, and then he asked, bring my Gopal photo, and he hold in his hand, on his chest, he just left his body. Such a Mahabhagavat and such a great personality, we have never seen in our life. And another small story I want to just tell. Same day when Maharaj left his body, we are in Bombay, and those days there was no telephone communication like nowadays. So night somebody called here, and our operator, they couldn't understand what happened, but they said that somebody left his body in Mayapur. So next morning, while I was coming to the Mangalarti, so Maharaj, I heard this thing. Then I spoke to, I think, Atmaram Prabhu. So he narrated me everything, all incident, how it happened. And then one devotee, Maharaj told me, one devotee wanted to take initiation from him. So Maharaj told me, just give a recommendation letter. So I gave the recommendation letter, and same day he was going that time in the morning to board the train Gitanjali to Calcutta. So he heard that when I told that Maharaj just left his body, he was crying, and he hit his head on the wall and he was crying so much. And he was the cook who cooked for Maharaj. So that is there. And then after Maharaj left, in 2000, there was a super cyclone in Odisha, where lakhs of people, animals, everybody, many people died. There is the water from the ocean. It just about 30 feet water just came towards the cities, and many people died. So Bhima Prabhu told me next day that you go to Odisha and just distribute prasadam there. Big cyclone. So I went with some money, and when we went to there was no direct flight to Bhubaneswar. I went through Calcutta and reached there in the night. Everything there was Bhubaneswar was completely dark. There was no light, nothing. So we started. I met devotees and we started Prasadam Distribution. So one Swami Maharaj, who is a disciple of Govinda Maharaj. So I used to go with him to distribute prasadam. For many days we distributed prasadam. So he took me to Maharaj village, that is Jagannathpur. Jagannathpur is a place in front of the road. When you go to Ersama, there is a block where so many people died there. So we used to go for prasadam. So he took me to Maharaj's birthplace, and all his house, everything except one well, everything was devastated, everything fell down, nothing was there. And Guruma means Govinda Maharaj's ex-wife was shifted to Bhubaneswar temple. And so then after we met, after we went to all the places, one Muslim fellow who was, Prabhu, I am giving class, don't Zoom, I am giving Zoom. Please don't come. Yeah. Just wait for 10 minutes. Okay. So then one Muslim from the native place, so he was, he narrated about Govinda Maharaj from his childhood, and how he just went to, and how he is such a nice devotee from his childhood. So nicely, although as a Muslim, he was described very nicely. And whoever comes there, I think Madhavananda Prabhu must be knowing, whoever goes there, so he always like a guide, he speak about Maharaj. One thing I left, where Maharaj was, when Maharaj was teacher, before he joined in ISKCON, so he was teacher, the school where I was studying, there is a place called Ongol town. So Maharaj was teacher there. And the Bhagavad Gita in Odia language, one of our teacher, his name is Pranamanda Mishra, he translated from Sanskrit, Prabhupada Sanskrit to Odia language. And so when I met him after I joined in ISKCON, he was talking, glorifying Maharaj, so nice, in his mouth like Saraswati is sitting. He talks so many things about, he said, Manik sir, means Maharaj's name was some Manik. So he was always telling Manik sir, and he was narrating all the glories of Maharaj. So I don't want to take precious time of all our senior devotees here. So please forgive me, because I'm not very good in speaking, so please forgive me. And on this occasion of the Vyas Puja, I always beg to Govinda Maharaj and all our Guru Varga here, Giriraj Swami and everybody, to bless me, so that I can do some service to the lotus feet of Srila Prabhupada and ISKCON. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you very much, Braja Hari Prabhu. I so many stories I had never heard before. And I can just imagine, I've heard stories from Subhag Maharaj when he met Prabhupada in London, and how Prabhupada started speaking to him very sweetly in Bengali. I can imagine also between you and Guru Maharaj, he must have been speaking to you in Odia. It must have been very, very sweet.
Yes.
I wanted to show a picture real quick. This is a photo that I took. This is Guru Maharaj's Janmastan in Jagannathpur before it was destroyed in the cyclone. And today the devotees are working on a kind of a shrine there, and a guest house, a temple, and things. There's another picture I'd like to share real quick too, which I think, actually a couple others, I think you'll find interesting. Let's see. This is a picture. This is the here. This is the Audio Bhagavat, a palm leaf copy of it that was in Gour Maharaj's family. I don't know, for many generations. It's a very old book. And this is what he grew up with as a young boy. He used to sleep with the book clutched to his chest. And every evening in that hut we just showed the picture of, he would go to sleep. They didn't have electricity. They didn't have enough money for candles or lamps. So he would sit by the cooking fire and read from this book, the Bhagavatam. He's very, very attached to the Bhagavatam from his earliest age. So anyway, I want to thank you so much, Brajahari Prabhu, for taking part. Oh, there's another picture actually I should show here also. Let's see, right here. This is a little more intimate picture of Gour Maharaj, but I think you'll like seeing this. I think this is also in Mauritius.
Yes.
Giraj Maharaj.
So nice.
You can just see in the picture so much affection between them. So I don't know if any devotees, anybody else has any reflections or questions or anything for Brajahari Prabhu or for Giraj Maharaj. We're really, really fortunate. I'm so grateful, Brajahari Prabhu, that you're doing. I mean, people are knocking on your door while you're speaking or ringing. You're such a busy person and you're giving us some time. Thank you so much. I have one complaint though about
Yes.
you. Okay, my complaint is that when you come to Jagannath Puri, it has
Yeah.
to be a standard program that you come here to our house to take prasadam. Bhakta Rupa, I think he'll support me, my comment also.
Last time we took Prasadam, Jagannath Prasadam in your house, if you remember. Night
Yes,
we
I
came.
remember you came.
And now very frequently I have to go to Jagannath Puri because we are starting the project there. So
Hold on just one second. Hey, Bhakta Rupa Prabhu. Sorry about that. Bhakta Rupa just came up to my office for a second. He's going out. He said, anyway, yeah, please come. And we're also very interested to see what's going on here in Puri and any way that we can
definitely.
contribute or support the project here. It's really important.
Yeah.
Consider us a team member.
Thank you. Thank you, bro. Hare Krishna.
Okay. Hare Krishna. If anybody else has any reflections or comments, you can share something. Otherwise, I'd like to go back and show another video of our Gour Maharaj. This is something that he spoke. They titled it "The Mood of Humility." And it's very, very sweet. This is just a few minutes long. Here we go.
You see, if that pride inside you don't express it, always fill yourself with love for humble, with pridelessness. This purpose, that purpose, this purpose, this purpose. That then you get to your mercy of Krishna, to the so dear to Krishna. I say it is very dear, very intimate. If Radharani is there anybody dearer to Radharani, to Krishna? Radharani is the dearest. Nobody is not dearer than Radharani. So Radharani says, I have no prema with Krishna. Nandasi, there is no made servant of Krishna. Radharani said that. Why you feel such pride? You may say that, but think yourself like this. This is a double-headed fellow. Can tell you. This is the mood. This is your own feeling. You understand? You may say, yes, because Krishna gives something. Yes, that's preaching. And how people will accept it. But your mood is like this.
Prabhupada explained the behavior of the devotee is devotee never agitated in any circumstance. So, for example, we are not devotee, but still we try to follow the path by just following instruction of spiritual master.
Yes.
To try the part of devotional service. So if we sometimes struggling, Maya, like this, so what should we, in which behavior should we adopt? If we become, attacked by Maya, we should be just.
Maya, he's the master of Maya, so he needs protection.
But it still
Maya was a prabhadyante Maya me tantaranti. When you surrender unto me, Krishna says, then you can curse Maya. So, Mahaprabhu says, don't be afraid. I am with you. I've given you this unfailing weapon. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Hare Hare. Remember these words of Mahaprabhu, Krishna. Then don't be afraid. That Prabhupada says, even most trial, most of classification, you would never be consistent. Yes. Yes. Why? You understand? Completely surrender unto Krishna. And Krishna has promised. Kaunteya prajani nami bhakta pranasya. He has promised. Through Arjuna, I give protection to my devotee. My devotee never perished.
One way is not devoted. The professor is devoted.
Yes, that is our humility. I am no devotion, I am not a devotion. Completely dependent on your mercy. All nasty things in me, and so fast, and so stupid, great thinking person, have committed so. There is no such sin in the world that I have not committed. Still, you are my Lord. Still, you are my Lord. Dunya marna. Still, you are my Lord.
Hare Krishna. So, looks like Braja Hari Prabhu had to go. I'm very grateful to him for taking part. I'd like to, we have another video, I'd like to show it right now, of Gauranga Prabhu, who, those of you who don't know Gauranga, he's becoming very well known. He's also from Mumbai, and he's a disciple of Radhanath Maharaj, and he's now, I don't know all the terms they have for everybody these days, but he's working with the GBC here in Puri, actually. He's also in charge of the Govardhan Eco Village, and he's in charge of the Bhaktivedanta Research Center, which we're a part of now here in Puri. We have we call it Gour, the Gaudiya Odia Research Association. It's a branch of the BRC, not technically an ISKCON project, but pretty much all ISKCON devotees. And we're trying to do something to connect with different scholars and to preserve old, little-known books and things. We're working on it here. We've collected some of the old songs of Ramananda Roy, which no one knows about practically, and some other books, and we're working on translating those. So let me just play this for as offering from Gauranga Prabhu. This is about 4 minutes.
Hare Krishna. His Holiness Srila Gour Govinda Swami Maharaj ki. I'm very honored to be speaking about Gour Govinda Swami Maharaj. who was a very, very exalted and empowered disciple of His Divine Grace, Srila Prabhupada. His contribution in establishing Srila Prabhupada's teachings as one of the most profound and deep representations of Mahaprabhu's philosophy has been tremendous. When Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu meets Prataprudra Maharaj in the Jagannath Vallabh garden, and when Prataprudra Maharaj recites the Gopi Gita, Mahaprabhu is in ecstasy, and Mahaprabhu says, "Who are you and from where you have come? You are my best friend. You are Bhurida, most munificent." So one who distributes Krishna Katha is the most munificent, and it is very difficult to estimate the contributions made by Gour Govinda Swami Maharaj in distributing so munificently the nectar of Harikatha all across the world through his personal lectures and through his books and teachings. I'm especially deeply touched by his deep devotion to the writings of the previous acharyas, and especially Thakur Bhakti Vinod, and how he brings out beautiful lessons for the sadhakas in their practice of Krishna consciousness. Although I personally could not get physical association, somehow due to circumstances, I got connected to ISKCON in 93 and he departed in 96. In that 3-year period, somehow our paths, I was not fortunate enough to have his darshan live, but his words and his teachings on understanding the rasa and the tattva of bhakti have been very, very significant. Krishna tattva, bhakti tattva, prema tattva sar, bhava tattva, rasa tattva, lila tattva are. In essence, all of these different aspects of the philosophy of Krishna consciousness are very deeply embedded in the words and the teachings of Srila Gour Govinda Swami Maharaj. On this occasion, I offer my heartfelt prayers at his lotus feet and pray that I am able to inculcate a small fragment of the ocean of devotion which he carried within his heart. And as we are trying to embark in the Puri project, we aspire to receive his blessings, that we are able to fulfill his desire with the amazing piece of land which he acquired on behalf of Srila Prabhupada for ISKCON. Let us pray that the whole of ISKCON India can come together and do something wonderful together in the glorification of Srila Prabhupada. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. I'm very grateful to Gauranga Prabhu. They took some time. He's another personality who's, when he came here to Puri a few weeks ago, I think of one day he had something like 5 different meetings. So very, very busy. Brajahari Prabhu knows you were here at the same time. Let me just read a little comment here from Chittahari Chaitanya Das. He says, a small reflection from his insignificant soul. I had been associated with ISKCON since some time, but had no idea about who His Holiness Gour Govinda Swami was. But one day in the year 2012, I had a dream in which a very effulgent Indian-bodied sannyasi was giving a lecture with me attending. Then I woke up feeling both enlivened and confused about his identity. But later that day, when I visited my local ISKCON center, a new book had come out, laying my query to rest. It was a booklet on Gour Govinda Maharaj. Since that day, I try to listen to his lectures, read his books, and enrich my Krishna consciousness. Thank you, Chittahari Prabhu. It's really kind of you to share that. Gour Maharaj will be very, very happy. It was his life and soul to encourage devotees. And he told me personally in New York City in 1994, he said, there's 3 things that are very important to me. One is that I want to preach to the preachers. It causes me so much pain to see the preachers falling down and going away. And the second thing is that I want to show that everything is in Srila Prabhupada's books. For some people, they say that Prabhupada only gave ABC. I want to make them mum. And the third thing is, he said, I want to show that everything is in ISKCON, and the devotees don't have to leave for so-called higher teachings somewhere else. And he repeated that very, very often. That was his strength. At the same time, I should also comment too, he wasn't a fanatical kind of person. He certainly wasn't hateful of other sadhus. There were many sadhus who came to visit him in Bhubaneswar, and sometimes when he was in Padayatra, he would stop and visit some different sadhus in Orissa himself. But as I've seen with pretty much all sadhus, they always encourage their disciples to be very fixed in serving their guru and their mission of their guru. I'd like to share with you another short video of our Guru Maharaj. This is something that the devotees in ISKCON Monday put together, and it's just 4 minutes long. And in a couple of minutes, we're going to hear something from my senior godbrother, Pushkaraksha Prabhu. But I'd like to play this, and if anybody has any reflections on this video, you can please share that afterwards. They titled this The Most Important Thing.
And most important is sadhu sangha. You understand? Sadhu. Sadhu means sadhu in true sense, not hypocrite sadhu, not bogus sadhu, real sadhu. You understand? Guru means guru, is heavy, not laghu. There's specific words, habits, meaning, weight. You understand? Yes, you should understand. If you really meet Guru, then your association with laghus will be bitter. You'll give it up. That's most important thing. You are associating with material poets, material politicians, material leaders, materially wealthy persons, materially learned persons, like that. They are laghus. When you associate with the real sadhu and get his krupa, then automatically this will taste bitter to you. You will no longer like to associate with him. You understand? Yes. So you should associate with such guru, such sadhu, with a real sadhu. You understand? The sadhu krupa, the mercy of sadhu, is very powerful and most important thing. Vaishnavara krupa kaya sarva siddhi. If you can get mercy, krupa means mercy of Vaishnava sadhu, then all perfection will achieve. You understand? All perfection, sarva siddhi. This is most important thing, sadhu sangha, real sadhu. Sadhu in true sense, dharma sense of the term. You understand? Not hypocrite, bogus sadhu or polychela. No. Only posing like sadhu, not real sadhu. You understand? That's most important. If that sadhu will cast his glance, merciful glance on you, got. Yes, that's most important. You understand? Gopinath, Acharya. Yeah, that's most important. That's most important. You understand? Yes. Most important. And I told this morning, develop greed for such type of sadhu sangha. Yes, that's greed. Don't resist such greed. Become greedy, you know. You understand? You are greedy for material accumulations. That's your enemy. That will lead you to hell. But now become greedy for this. So because to have such type of sadhu sangha. How can I get? How can I get? Become greedy. That's needed only. You understand? Yes. Develop such greed.
Hare Krishna. So this is our revered spiritual master. I want to thank Gour Maharaj. He had to go. It's getting a little late where he's at right now. Surat Janavi Priyadasi wrote, is there any book on Maharaja's biography in detail? I've read Gopal Champa, which is amazing and miraculous. I read his books, which I request you kindly give me an opportunity to share my I read his books, which are very nourishing and clear in Siddhanta, the elemental love. We printed I compiled this. This is a book called When Good Fortune Arises. And the first half of the book is things about Guru Maharaj's life, and I tried to let him speak for himself whenever we could, or other devotees' remembrances. And we want to work on another edition of it. I'd like to add some of the things Brajahari Prabhu just spoke about, the very nice remembrances. And in the second part of the book, it's all his teachings. The book, I wanted to make this in such a way that it wasn't just a memory book, but it was something as much as we can to be living. And Guru Maharaj spoke very much about this principle of when good fortune arises, and it arises when we meet sadhu. So we wanted to write something about that, and we wanted to also include his teachings. And as he would comment many times that when nothing else is there, he was just speaking just now about sadhu sangha, when nothing else is there, then we can have the teachings, we have the books, we have the recordings and things like that. Mani Gopal Prabhu just wrote something. I can send you that video, Prabhuji. And let's see, Hemanga Chaitanya Prabhu, written, this is, Hemanga Chaitanya Prabhu's commented, he said, he'd like some minute. We've got another few minutes. We're supposed to hear from Pushkaraksha Prabhu, my senior godbrother, who I see has been present during the session. Pushkaraksha Prabhu is the first Western devotee who came to our Guru Maharaj, although he wasn't actually the very first to get initiated, but almost that was a little twerk of fate. Maybe he'll say something about that. So, Hemanga Chaitanya Prabhu, if you'd like to say something, you can.
Okay. Later on, after him, I will tell. No problem.
You can go ahead if it's short. If it's like 5 minutes or 10 minutes, you can go ahead now.
It's only 4-5 minutes only.
Sure.
Okay. Actually, I am from the Sham. There's just now, I think Radhava Gour Prabhu. Actually, he sent me, and then because I am basically I'm trying to help in preaching mission. Actually, I am basically a little bit. I am trying my best to preach. So generally, when I was working in Sham Desh in Sharjah project, actually I am a civil engineer, so it was very tense, situation always in the civil engineering, the projects always tense situation. So I used to think that what to do. Then suddenly one day I just got this thing on the net, his lecture, Gour Govinda Swami Maharaj lecture, and just I start hearing, and immediately my mind calmed down immediately. All my tension, everything, all worries totally finished. So after that, then I was daily listening his lectures, and then really means I stood and whatever then I remember he told the story about that how is Narsi Mehta story, that how his daughter got married and how Krishna took care of the daughter's marriage and everything, and he was always tension free and no worry, nothing. So that's why really whenever I was getting opportunity, whenever I was in tension, always I listen his lecture, and I found that all tension goes, plus my chanting quality also improves. I used to get up automatically. I will get up in the morning, and my chanting was so wonderful. The quality improved like anything, and full day I was feeling blissful and cheerful. So really, I am shall be grateful to His Holiness Gour Govinda Swami Maharaj for his special mercy, actually that which has coming through his lectures. So still I am in touch, and still I tell all about his pastimes in my lecture, because daily I am giving online classes here, and then almost 150 people daily attend the class since 1.5 years when they started our this thing, Corona, because of lockdown started. The same day we started the lectures. I started online classes, so always I quote his quotations and his about Leelas and all this thing about his surrender, how much he was surrendered soul. So many his Leelas also. So really I am inspired by his, till now always I remember it, how he was so simple and then very pure. And then I heard also that what I read about his history. And sometime where my wife, she was always telling me something. Then always I quote, seeing Govinda Maharaj in his biography, how he was chanting in the morning and he was getting up and all this thing. Then she gets convinced, yes, because I have to go on the duty early in the morning. So I tell that my wife that early in the morning time is very important for chanting. So I just brush the teeth and then I will immediately start chanting. But she was always telling, no, you should take bath. I had to tell back then again 2 times I cannot take bath because I had to go on duty early in the morning, very hectic schedule. Then one day when I was reading this biography, I showed, see, when the Govinda Maharaj, he was getting up and he was first trying to finish the chanting. So like this, so many realizations are there, of course, but time is limited. I got so many things are there which really inspired me. And then always I, remember him always that, yes, the way he was become a wonderful devotee. So and then he was not a devotee, he was acharya actually. You can say he's an acharya. I consider him like he's acharya of our ISKCON. So at least some few drop of that mood, the way he was serving the Srila Prabhupada, I want to get also some few drop of that mood. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Thanks a lot.
Thank you very much, Himanga Chaitanya Prabhu. I really appreciate that. It's a powerful thing to me to see the devotees can associate with a sadhu who's not present. I can tell a little story about this. After Guru Maharaj left, we printed some magazines, our Krishna Katamrita magazine that he instructed us to make. We printed in Malaysia, and they were shipped to India. And I went to pick them up at the Kolkata docks. And I didn't realize what a complicated thing it was to do that. And usually it takes about 3 or 4 days or a week to get these things out, and that's for a local person. But we went there and somehow we got it out in 1 day, and the whole day, I don't know how, but I was praying to Bhaktivinoda Thakur like anything, just remembering Bhaktivinoda Thakur. And similar to your comment, I really felt his presence. And many devotees have also told us about our Guru Maharaj that they felt his presence, reading his books, taking his teachings. And I think Guru Maharaj must be very pleased with your comments, Himanga Chaitanya Prabhu. Thank you very much. If you come to Jagannath Puri sometime, please come and visit us. We'd love to see you. Hare Krishna. I can't hear you. You're muted.
Sorry. You're staying there in Jagannath Puri?
Yes, Prabhuji.
Okay. So anyhow, but how to contact you, I don't know, because actually it's a due. Actually, we wanted to come, my wife and myself, we wanted to come there. Actually, we have never been in Jagannath Puri, but we are planning to come there.
Oh, I'll send you a private message with my email address.
Email address and your mobile number better.
Okay. I'll give you my WhatsApp number then. That's the best way to contact me.
That's the best way. Okay. Thank you. Okay. Thank you very much.
Okay, so I'll do that in just a minute. And right now I want to introduce a special personality. He's my Bodobai, my older godbrother, Pushkaraksha Prabhu. And he has some very amazing remembrances. For me, when I met Guru Maharaj, it was 1991 when I first met him. And then I came to Bhubaneswar in 93. And by that time, there were many Western devotees there, and it was a different kind of situation. But when Pushkaraksha met Guru Maharaj, I think it was 1985. You'll tell us in a minute. And that was Guru Maharaj's very first trip to Europe. It was the first time he'd flown on a plane. And it was really an East meets West kind of moment. He was a very, very different person in ISKCON. And Pushkaraksha was very fortunate to be there at that time. I have some photos of him. Let me share a picture or two. Pushkaraksha Prabhu and Guru Maharaj here. Let's see. when our Guru Maharaj came to France, Pushkaraksha Prabhu had the good fortune of being his translator. And this is one of the pictures. Guru Maharaj watching him, looking at him while he's translating there. And let me see. I have another picture too also. Let's see. This is a photo from the Vyas Puja program here in Bhubaneswar, I think in 1995. And you can see Pushkaraksha Prabhu there on the left, fanning him. So Pushkaraksha Prabhu got to do some very intimate service and got to see him at a very astonishing time, both in Europe and then later here in Bhubaneswar. And anyway, I'm just really, really happy, Pushkaraksha Prabhu. I know you're a busy person, that you had some time to spare and come and give us your association. Before I go ahead and start, let me just read out some comment here from Mother Tina. She says, I must go to sleep. Thank you so much, Hare Krishna obeisances, everybody. Loving and serving each other in such a nice way. She's appreciating. So thank you. So thank you very much, Pushkaraksha Prabhu. I really appreciate you being here.
It's my honor and pleasure, actually, and thank you very much for your service, Madhavananda Prabhu. You popularized Guru Maharaj teachings, and you yourself are also very learned and devoted, and you have become a great ambassador, for our Sangha, and I'm very grateful to you for all the service that you've performed and keep performing. So thank you very much. Comparatively, I'm not very well known, but definitely I had the good fortune of being there to welcome Gour Govinda Maharaj when he first came to the West. That was in 1985. Actually, he had just been allowed to accept disciples, even though he had received the instruction from Srila Prabhupada himself to have his own disciples. Yet, because he was very surrendered to Srila Prabhupada, and therefore he was obedient to the structure that Srila Prabhupada had put in place in the form of the GBC, So some of you may be aware, there was a Guru reform movement after the first 11 Ritviks had taken up the position of the zonal acharyas. And gradually, from 84 onwards, some very few devotees actually became allowed to initiate. And in 85, so amongst the first, Gour Govinda Maharaj was one of them. So there was actually a group of Oriya devotees who had been waiting for him to be allowed to formally initiate. And they took initiation that year in 85 on the holy appearance of Lord Nityananda, actually. And we know that Srila Prabhupada also laid the cornerstone of the temple in Bhubaneswar on that occasion, also on Lord Nityananda's appearance. So which made our Guru Maharaj say that Nityananda Prabhu has bestowed a great mercy, in this dham, and Srila Prabhupada also left his mercy, with Gour Govinda Maharaj, actually. That was the last founded temple project by Srila Prabhupada, so there was in India, in Orissa, in Bhubaneswar, which is the capital of the state, and also it was significant because, as you know, the Western devotees are not allowed in the Jagannath Puri temple, and Srila Prabhupada installed Lord Jagannath in Bhubaneswar, and we perform Ratha Yatra every year. So definitely that was a way to show that Lord Jagannath has mercy, on all living entities, including the non-Indian members of the human community, So in that way, I was very fortunate, to greet Gour Govinda Maharaj. And as Madhavananda Prabhu said, I was invited to become his local servant during that fortnight of his stay in France. And that's the time when we established our relationship. I'd been in ISKCON for 5 years, so I was actually waiting to meet my guru. I had not accepted initiation prior to that from any of the current initiating gurus. And I was waiting for a Prabhupada disciple whom, like Madhavananda said, who was like Prabhupada, so to speak, in a way, that which means a pure devotee, which I could recognize in the person of Govinda Maharaj very quickly, that he was a real sadhu, real pure devotee. He is like Prabhupada said about his Guru Maharaj, is a Vaikuntha man. Actually, I would even say a Goloka Vrindavan man, an ambassador of the spiritual world, And so this is our good fortune, all of us, like our generation of second generation devotees or third. We have not necessarily met Srila Prabhupada personally, but we learned from Srila Prabhupada through his teachings, and we're fascinated by his life story and his achievements. And in the same way, all the non-envious, Nirmat Saranam Satam, non-envious and honest devotees can appreciate the qualities of a sadhu, of a genuine Vaishnav, And this is very soothing for the heart to see also God brothers of our Guru Maharaj appreciate him and glorify him, like Giriraj Maharaj was doing this morning, because we've gone through a period of time while Govinda Maharaj was present when actually he was not necessarily understood properly. And I have to confess that maybe sometimes some of his disciples were a bit over enthusiastic in preaching his glories, which was not universally appreciated by everyone. So that was a bit of an embarrassing situation, in the sense that I think Madhavananda also published one time an article which was named Hide Your Guru. So we also have to preserve the wealth of the, prema bhakti, pure bhakti, in the sense that we say we don't throw jam or jelly to the swine, So it's not for everyone to appreciate the qualities of a pure devotee, because some people are competing, some people may be envious, in the same way that we shouldn't preach the glories of the holy name to those who refuse to chant it or who are faceless, So we have to be careful, because this is a treasure, This is a treasure. So Govinda Maharaj is a gem, definitely, amongst Vaishnavas and in our Sangha of ISKCON, He's not the only pure devotee, I'm not saying that, but definitely he's outstanding by his life, his purity, and his mercy as well, his kindness, And I cannot just speak without mentioning one of his disciples, whose name is Yamuna Devi Dasi, whom I had the good fortune also of being the husband. We got initiated in 1986 in Orissa on Ram Navami, both of us. And actually, I want to mention about her because she became a pure devotee. And our Guru Maharaj testified it, And he said she went straight back to Krishna. And he said, my mission as a guru is fulfilled, is successful, because one of my disciples has gone back to Krishna. And it's a long story, but to make a long story short, Yamuna Devi Dasi displayed the symptoms of a pure devotee, She constantly had the holy name in her mind. She said, even at night when I sleep, I hear the holy name. And Guru Maharaj said, so you see, this is samadhi. And she had a vision of the spiritual world where she was going, you know. She was basing with Srimati Radharani in the water of mercy. And she said, oh, I didn't know it existed, the water of mercy. And Guru Maharaj commented and said, oh, you see, she had a vision of where she's going. And Prabhupada appeared to her. She had the darshan of Krishna, who came twice to her to comfort her. And when he left, she cried like anything. Why did he go? Why did he go? He was here. He was here. So I want to mention about her because that is also a living example of the Shakti of a pure devotee, of a Guru Maharaj, of a spiritual master. It's not just theoretical. I remember in 1986, when he was coming back for the second time in France, one devotee objected, he thought, a Prabhupada disciple actually, but who was somewhat envious, when Guru Maharaj was speaking of the qualities of a guru, that devotee interpreted that Guru Maharaj was bragging about himself, because there could be a confusion. You say, you have to accept a pure devotee, you have to accept a guru who's a sadhu, etc. And then you're in a position of being a guru, so some people may wonder. But actually, it's the simplicity of a child. And this is Shastra, this is Tattva, Guru Tattva. So the answer of Guru Maharaj was, shouldn't I speak the truth? Shouldn't I speak Tattva? He's not speaking about himself, Actually, he explained that the order of becoming guru has not come to me. It has come to my Guru Maharaj. But I'm gathering men to engage in the service of my Guru Maharaj. So that is the mood. That is the mood of the Guru, Sadguru. He's not thinking himself to be Guru, even though he has to act as Guru as a duty, but internally he thinks, I'm just gathering men, engaging men in the service of my Guru Maharaj, He's Guru, I'm Das, I'm servant. I'm servant of my Guru Maharaj, eternal servant. Just like Prabhupada said as well, I'm just, you all came to me. Oh, Giraj Maharaj, Jai, we're happy to have you back. Jai. I wanted to thank you personally also. I mentioned a word about it earlier, but I wanted to thank you personally about your appreciation of our Guru Maharaj. This is very soothing for the heart to see God brothers glorify each other without envy and deep love and appreciation. So thank you very much for the example you're setting. Thank you, Maharaj. You're muted, actually, if you want to say a word.
Yeah, I've been hearing your whole talk. I was listening to all the other talks, but I had to leave my my desktop computer, so I was listening on my iPhone. And but yeah, I it's amazing what you were saying about your wife Yamuna. It's like completely amazing.
Yes, it is actually. It is. And it was my good fortune to actually serve her, assist her, And one thing, she actually got cancer. So she asked Govinda Maharaj, she said, is this due to karma that I got this disease? And Govinda Maharaj answered and said, no, actually, you must have full faith in my words. Krishna has personally given you this disease. He says there's no more question of karma because you took initiation. So he said, if you accept this disease as Krishna's mercy, you will become eligible to attain his lotus feet. Otherwise, you don't.
Hold on for 1 second. I want to show something I think you'll like. This is a couple photos. This is on the right, this is Jamuna. And in the middle, this very handsome fellow, that's Pushkaraksha Prabhu. And I think this is his brother on the left. And there's one other photo I'll just show you real quick. I'm sorry to interject, but I thought the devotees might like to see her. This is the only photo that I know of Gour Maharaj with Jamuna, but you can't see all of them together. You'll see what I'm saying in a second. It's Gour Maharaj's lotus feet and Jamuna putting her head at his feet there. So
yeah, actually, at the time, that's the time when Guru Maharaj told her about having received this disease from Krishna personally, you know, and that she had to accept it as his mercy, you know. So actually, she couldn't even bow down at that time. That's how far down she could go, and she touched our Guru Maharaj's feet with her hands, you know, and put it back to her forehead, you know. So she was very stoic, very courageous, and very surrendered. And I had told her that both ways we can be successful. You can be successful. It's either you get cured from this disease, and then it means you have more time to serve Krishna and Guru in this body, or if you remember Krishna at the time of death, then that is success. Antakale Narayana Smriti. So actually, that's what happened. You know, she left chanting the holy name, and it so happened that her mother and father had come, and they were on both sides of the bed with me, and we all were chanting together Krishna with every breath, you know, and she left with the name of Krishna on her lips, you know, and Govinda Maharaj, you know, sanctioned her departure, you know, and before leaving, she had asked, you know, a couple of days before, she had me ask, she would like to know her relationship with Krishna, and Govinda Maharaj said, "Oh, she's a Gopi Manjari, eternal maidservant of Srimati Radharani." You know, so Prabhupada said this is practical, you know. Susukam kartum avyayam. This is a joyful process, but this is also practical, you know. And we must have full faith, you know, that there's success for us at the end of the road, you know, maybe at the end of this lifetime, or maybe in 1 or 2 more lifetimes, depending on each of us, depending on the degree of purity, possibly, but also depending on the service we have to perform, you know, like some devotees may come back to continue serving their disciples, you know, liberating them, like Giriraj Maharaj was disciples, you know, and some other gurus. So it's a big duty. And serving Srila Prabhupada, you know, because there's a bond of love, you know. I remember when I was about to leave Bhubaneswar in '86, you know, I expressed the sadness that we had to go, you know, and Gour Maharaj told me, he said, this is an eternal, loving relationship. This is not dependent on time and space. And he added, he said, you should think about this very deeply, Pushkaraksha. So actually, this has sustained me throughout the years, you know, because not only was I serving abroad sometime, but also after his physical departure, definitely, you know, we feel the separation. But this is the paradox, because at the same time, there is union, you know, union in love within our heart, like the inhabitants of Vrindavan, when Krishna leaves, still they're with Krishna because he's so present in their heart, they cannot forget him. So actually the love in between the disciple and the Sadguru, like the disciple of Prabhupada must have with Srila Prabhupada, like we have with Srila Govinda Maharaj, or with the pure devotee as it is, not necessarily our guru, but another pure devotee, because it is explained that the separation from the pure devotee is the most painful. There's nothing more painful than the separation from the pure devotee. So we're suffering the pangs of separation. But at the same time, if we remain united in love and in service, we also can expect that our Guru Maharaj may, on his own, because he's a liberated soul, he's a Nitya Siddha, he has the capacity to communicate with his devotees, with his disciples, with whom who aspire for his association, for his instructions, So he can directly communicate after he's physically leaving this world and this body. He can still communicate, and enter the life of his disciple and guide his disciple. Like Srila Prabhupada said, I have only accompanied my spiritual master to the United States, So he was constantly feeling the presence of his Guru Maharaj. In the same way, we saw this morning, Govinda Maharaj comment in the same way that, no, don't tell me my Guru Maharaj is gone. He's not there. Yes, he's there. I see him. I can speak to him. I get his guidance. I get also maybe his chastisement, rectification. Do this, don't do that, And this is the experience of the disciples, that they can carry on, because it is an eternal loving relationship, So the Guru has a duty to liberate his disciples, As long as the disciple cultivates that love, that loving bond, it's eternal, Like Guru Maharaj used to say, you must bind Krishna in your heart with the rope of love. And you would point at the heart of the devotee, including myself, Bind Krishna in your heart with the rope of love, And Krishna becomes bound, actually, That's why it's not so cheap to become a pure devotee, because then after Krishna accepts to become the servant of his own devotee, he becomes the chariot driver of Arjuna, We remember that story of the illiterate sadhu who was crying, and he couldn't read, but he had tears in his eyes because he said, oh, when I see Krishna, who's becoming the servant of his devotee, who's becoming the chariot driver of Arjuna, And that was moving him, So definitely Krishna will become, he says he's indebted. He says he cannot repay the gopis. He's indebted, and how can I repay, So, of course, this is very esoteric and far above our level, but still, this is something we can meditate upon and contemplate, So being in association with a pure devotee, it means we are in direct association with a liberated soul, a resident of Goloka Vrindavan. Like the Prabhupada disciple had the association of Prabhupada, like we had the association of Govinda Maharaj, like I had the association of Yamuna Devi Dasi. That was also not similar for me as my guru, but in a way similar as well. One and different, but one as well, in the sense that she was a pure devotee. She is a pure devotee. And that is the same pain, but that is also the same good fortune, because that person becomes completely transcendental. That person carries Krishna in her heart. I think, Giriraj Maharaj, one time you asked Prabhupada about Narayan in your heart, and Prabhupada told you, no, this is Shyama Sundar who's resting in your heart, isn't it?
Yes, I suppose.
I heard that, or I read that.
Yeah.
Yes. So this is the sadhu. That's why the sadhu becomes he goes to the tirtha, and actually he purifies the tirtha. And we should not just go to the tirtha for the sake of being in the tirtha, but we should associate with the pure devotees who may be living in the tirtha, because they are the one who are carrying Krishna in their heart, on the lotus of their heart. And Krishna has completely, of course, purified even their physical body. That body is not material anymore. Like when the devotees brought back the body of Govinda Maharaj to Bhubaneswar from Mayapur, that body was very supple. There was no hardness, no rigidity. It was, it was a transcendental body, purified, like Arjuna is, said to have all the hair of his body chanting Hare Krishna, so completely spiritualized, even though externally we may say it looks like a physical body, we put that body in the ground in samadhi, but still that body has been spiritualized. That's why even the touch of a pure devotee is very powerful, very powerful, very purifying. So what to speak of those who had the good fortune of massaging Srila Prabhupada's body, or serving Vapu, so this is something inconceivable, inconceivable, because it is spiritual, and we're coming from the material platform. So gradually we elevate our consciousness, but it takes mercy. Actually, it takes mercy to realize, like Maharaj Prataparudra was blessed by Chaitanya Mahaprabhu to be able to see him in different kirtan parties when others could not. So, like it was explained, we're not the seers, but we are to be seen. So actually the Guru is the seer, and Krishna is making the arrangement. Guru Krishna Kripadepai Bhakti Lata Bij. By this is the arrangement of Krishna that we meet Guru. By the mercy of Guru, we go back to Krishna. So this is a transcendental arrangement in between Krishna and his representative, that we can be blessed and go back to the spiritual world sooner or later. So we have to be patient and determined and keep our enthusiasm. And this is possible also due to the association of other devotees who inspire us and set a good example and give us confidence in the process, and give us hope that one day we will be able also to join our Sangha, our Guru Varga, Srila Prabhupada and the previous Acharyas, down to Prabhupada's pure disciples in Goloka Vrindavan, and together keep serving happily and partake in their leelas. Thank you very much.
Hare Krishna. Sorry, I was muted. Thank you very much, Pushkarakshi Prabhu. I really appreciate it. Thank you very. It's such an inspiring thing to hear about Jamuna. Let me share another photo or two that I have here. I think the devotees might like to see that. This is Pushkarakshi Prabhu in South London.
South of France, actually.
South of France.
Yes, yes.
And I think I have another photo too. Let me just check real quick.
That photo you just showed, Guru Maharaj gave a very rasic class that day, and after class he said, "Oh, you're enjoying Pushkaraksha? You're enjoying."
This one's in Soho. I recognize this, and you can see Chaitanya Prabhu behind you, Nuhari Prabhu over here on the left.
Yes,
Pushkaraksha Prabhu again.
Yeah, that's in London. Yeah.
So thank you so much, Prabhuji. I really, really appreciate it, Pushkaraksha. And thank you for sharing something with us about Jamuna. It's really inspiring to hear success stories.
Exactly. Yeah.
We
Yeah.
need that.
Like I was hearing, that material wealth, spiritual wealth, and actually the real wealth is spiritual wealth. The material wealth can go, So material success, spiritual success. Ultimate success is spiritual.
There's a devotee here who asked me if she could speak. Surat Janavi Priya. Are you still present?
Yes, yes.
Okay.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you. Can we see you?
Yes, I'm on. My video is on.
I see her.
Yes, Hare Krishna Maharaj, Dandavad Pranam. My obeisances
go.
to you. Actually, I came following you. When I came to know you're going to give some talk, so I came following you in the Zoom meeting. So thank you for this nectarian class, and thank you Madhavananda Prabhuji for keeping Maharaj Siksha alive. Actually, as our Guru says that Vani Seva is more important than Vapu Seva, and that you are doing so wonderfully. I love Gour Govinda Maharaj. I came in contact with his lectures actually, as Pushkaraksha Prabhuji was saying that Maharaj was talking about Guru Tattva, and some people confused that he's talking about himself. I was searching one class on Guru Tattva when I came in contact with the class given by Maharaj. And I highly recommend everybody who comes and asks me about Guru Tattva, I tell them to listen that specific class which Gour Govinda Maharaj has given on Guru Puja Bhajan, Shri Guru Charana Padma Kevala Bhakati Sadma. That class, Maharaj's class is so amazing. It just accidentally played on my phone, and I just listened the class, and I came back to see who's the speaker. This is how I came in touch with Maharaj, and I developed a kind of attachment for him. Prabhupada has given us all the moons, as Giriraj Maharaj says. He himself is a beautiful moon, and he, as he has written for Maharaj also, that Prabhupada has given us so many moons. So I bought his books, and Gopal Jiu, then Krishna Kathamrit. Whenever I want to give some highly philosophical class with element of pure love, then Maharaj's book is sufficient to know the topic and to present it beautifully with so many evidences and with so much love and rasika. He is a rasika bhakta. He knows the mellow behind the katha. He knows the rasa behind the story. So he's amazing. I just want to share one story which I read in Gopal Jiu, when Maharaj was, as we know that when Bhubaneswar temple started, Maharaj was alone there with very few people who was helping him, and the temple land was a jungle actually, and the book says that sometimes they saw the jackals coming, the foxes coming in the jungle. I mean, the wild animal could be seen in the temple area, or the area where Maharaj was constructing a temple. So as Madhavananda Prabhuji said, Maharaj was not a fanatic person. He loved sadhus because he could recognize sadhu as he is himself a pure devotee of the Lord. So one Ramanuja Sampradaya sadhu came to meet Maharaj, but the center was in the jungle, so he was not finding the proper address. There was no landmarks, of course. So he was finding where is Maharaj. And then from the distance he saw that a very sharp light emanating from somewhere. So he followed the light, he followed the emanating light which was coming from somewhere. He followed it, and he saw Gour Govinda Maharaj was sitting and chanting there. This is how he found the correct address. A pure devotee found a pure devotee by his aura, or by his pure devotion which was coming through from his body. So Maharaj is an amazing personality. I today pray we have Giriraj Maharaj also here, he's my Shiksha Guru. His teachings are amazing, and I pray at his lotus feet that please bless me that I can become a Guru Nishtha devotee. I can keep all my faith at the lotus feet of my Guru, and the gurus, as Prabhupada says, we have Shiksha Pranali as well as Diksha Pranali. So I can keep my faith in my gurus and in Parampara. I'm a very rascal person, and I'm very doubty person. I keep doubting everything. So with your mercy, please allow me that I can keep my faith. Thank you, Madhavananda Prabhuji, for allowing me. Thank you, Maharaj, for leading me. I actually came following you. Thank you so much.
Hare Krishna. Thank you very much, Sarat Janava Priya. We're all trying to follow Giriraj Maharaj. That's our business. Hare Krishna. I just wanted to just relate a short story before we finish and to a program tonight. I heard from Banamali Prabhu, who was Guru Maharaj's personal servant when he first went to Europe. And it was quite a thing for him. Guru Maharaj had never been on a plane before. They got on their airplane going to Europe, and I think actually from Bhubaneswar to Kolkata. And the stewardess was walking down the aisle to give some drinks, and she's giving to everybody. And Guru Maharaj kind of nudged Banamali and said, "Who is this woman? What is she doing?" He wasn't used to stewardesses. He didn't like it very much. He stayed up the whole night. It was an all-night flight. We're going to Europe. He stayed up all night and just chanting japa, he told us. And then when he arrived in Paris, I want to tell this story. It really shows something about Pushkaraksha Prabhu also, that he was staying in the temple, and at that time there was one big ISKCON zonal acharya who was there. And Guru Maharaj was invited by Hari Vilas Prabhu to come to his home. I think Pushkaraksha Prabhu must have been the translator, been in those programs. And Hari Vilas Prabhu had been giving donations to the Bhubaneswar temple for some time. He was friendly with Guru Maharaj. So Guru Maharaj just went to his home. He didn't think anything about it and gave a nice talk. We still have some recordings of those lectures. And then later he went back to the big castle, and the zonal acharya there called him up to his room. And Guru Maharaj didn't know it, but Hari Vilas Prabhu was persona non grata. He was in bad standing with the local GBC because he didn't appreciate the style of that personality and how he was behaving in that. And so Guru Maharaj came up there, and it's the first time he'd ever been in Europe, the first time he'd ever been outside of India. And that zonal acharya started yelling at him and chastising him in front of some of his disciples and told him, "Why did you go to see Hari Vilas? Who told you you can do this? Nonsense, rascal." And then he started shouting, and he said, "Get out, get out." And as I mentioned, it's the first time he'd ever been outside of India. Not good. And his French was zero. He didn't have any foreign money. He had nowhere to go, no nothing. And Guru Maharaj just laughed. He said, "Very good, very good." Krishna's arrangement. No idea where he's going to go, what he's going to do. And he walked out of the room, and there was this young bhakta there who later became Pushkaraksha Prabhu. He said, "Maharaj, I'll pay for your ticket. You go to England," I think it was. By train. Pushkaraksha came forward at that time. Such a story. And I don't mean to disrespect that disciple Srila Prabhupada was a zonal acharya at that time, but this story really struck me, how Guru Maharaj just laughed at that time and went on. So I want to thank everybody very much for taking part today, especially Giriraj Maharaj. It's like the middle of the night almost for you now. It's getting late there. Thank you very much for attending, and you greatly inspired us and so many different devotees. Not just devotion to Prabhupada, but also your cooperative spirit and your love for your God brothers, and that your relationship with Tamal Krishna Maharaj is very famous, and other Vaishnavas. So I want to just finish and give a little note about our program tonight, Indian time. It'll be just an hour and a half long program, and tonight we only have 3 speakers. But we're starting off with Bhagavat Maharaj, who, for those of you who don't know, is a very senior disciple of Srila Prabhupada. And he was here in Bhubaneswar for many years with our Guru Maharaj. They had a very friendly, intimate relationship. Brajahari Prabhu was telling a story about him He didn't use his name, but that was him here in Bhubaneswar who wanted to go back to New York, and Prabhupada was telling him, no, you stay here. And Prabhupada told him, I want you to be the president here. And then he told Prabhupada, but you stay in good health. And then he said, well, Prabhupada, to tell you the truth, I'm not chanting my rounds. And Prabhupada said, that's okay. He said, anyway, you're doing service. And Prabhupada very much encouraged him. And Prabhupada had a lot of love and affection for him. And he has wonderful memories of our Guru Maharaj. So Bhagavat Maharaj will be speaking tonight, Indian time, about 7 o'clock, 7:05. And then after he speaks will be Krishna Chaitra Maharaj will be speaking. And then about 8 o'clock in the evening, Indian time, will be Jayapataka Maharaj. And that'll be our evening session, and we'll be finished. And I want to thank everybody very much again for taking part, Giriraj Maharaj and Pushkaraksha Prabhu and all the different devotees. Thank you very much. I hope that Giriraj Maharaj and Pushkaraksha, you bless me that I can serve my Guru Maharaj and somehow someday become a real disciple. Like such a wonderful example of you, Giriraj Maharaj. Thank you. Hare Krishna. Vanchakalpatarubhishcha kripasindhubhyevacha patitanam pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. Nandakoti Vaishnavendra ki jai.